Okay, I think we're live. We think. I mean, I started the live stream.
All right, I'll have to double check.
Yes, please.
We had the one hanger that.
It's gonna be either, Facebook or YouTube, I believe.
Okay.
Being rented out, and then we have the small, you know what it is? I think it's the small one, the guy, who was hurt at the airport, he had that little small hanger, but the new, like the one that was originally supposed to be a, storage. Yeah.
I don't know.
His Premium Aircraft's the one that burned up, so I don't think I think maybe that's why that's changed, but I'll verify that. Off the top of my head,
Found out last
Yeah.
week, I think
Yeah.
that was client who,
because we don't have that. No, we didn't, I know we didn't
I
really
think I've talked about it before, being sued by the Environmental Protection Division.
Yes,
Everything
yes.
should.
Okay.
Hello.
Well, the reason he
I don't
was running
know that we're.
was on in a,
Let's
in a
talk
She
about,
probably just got scared of us.
kid company.
let's talk about what we're gonna talk about later.
Colonel from the Air Force 10
okay.
years ago, and maintained and created, I think the aircraft was solid, but end of April, and he crashed it
I wish.
in Spring Branch.
Well, the two,
My client's son with him,
about will be, of course, the mayor's.
Oh.
42-year-old kid, basically. Yeah.
But.
And,
We need to
sad
put a
news.
time limit on him.
Yeah.
So this guy
Yes, sir.
basically got into the age of
David's closest to, so we're gonna make you or Phil be the one that just long.
Here, I'll just move the hourglass to this side.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm telling you, time is
Of
up.
course, I'm not saying that.
Oh, yeah.
Good evening.
I think the top might come off. You might be able to adjust how much is in there.
She's close.
No, this is the new raising, presses it through the body.
I'm pulling your elbow.
15 minutes later,
How are you, sir?
Like to see it now.
so he has
Oh, I was
spent a year and a
patriotic.
half probably.
Wow.
Well, yeah. Well, I had kind of blue hair too for a while.
Lawyer survey fees and all sorts of stuff over the last year and a half. And now the next step is that the original land grant is wrong because it says it stops at the Nueces River, but then the numbers take them over to the creek and they're fighting around.
Oh,
So since I filed paperwork with the general land office, he says, okay, the next step is to correct those descriptions.
yeah.
And get the boundary described as the Nueces River instead of this creek.
Oh my God, we're live. Oh.
And he says, just get it done. I
You're
don't
on.
care what
Okay.
it costs or how long it takes.
Let me
Just
give you
quick as
this
a
tour.
bell.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I think I'm supposed to give you this. Yeah,
Since
but
all of his motivation.
She
to
may
be polite,
already be in the system, she
let's
thinks.
just get this
She's
done.
doing our plats,
So-
and this, she did some work out at the park,
Yeah.
I think, or something. So can you give this to him to check on it? Is he still there?
are you talking about Leroy?
Yeah.
He leaves at 3 o'clock.
Oh, Lord.
Now, Beck will be back.
Hey, John.
She's the one that does this.
But he can check to see if she's already in, because she doesn't need this if she's already in the system.
That's a Boy Scout project.
Yeah, yeah. Let me, I did I bring something? No, I'm gonna put down here, maybe, she's out of town this
Oh,
week.
okay. Oh, all
Okay.
week. But if he can check and just,
Yes, they're supposed to.
because he asked me,
Yes.
Okay.
and I told him
Because
I
if
didn't
the
know.
troop leader in that does not approve it,
He's got 19
project.
plats.
Okay. Okay,
I told her if she'll get that in the invoice, she'll deliver where's the signature
Okay.
instead of going in the center.
okay.
you see what I'm saying? Because we've been there with Christopher's problem. That's how I know what the, and it hasn't changed. The troop leader has to approve it, and they sign off on it. And then it goes to the next step, which is normally the pre-Eagle board to say, yep, good. And then it comes to the beneficiary. Because one of those two sources can kill it like that, say, oh, no, that's not a good one, or change it up and everything before it comes to us. So that's why this is important for us. I mean, and this is, any Eagle Scout project, this is what we need to see here at council. So that's why I asked for it yesterday.
Yeah, no, it's understandable, and I think that's one, I think what they have already got approval, but I think it's just a matter of finishing out this work, so that way it reflects.
Well, yeah, because they gotta present this whole thing to the Eagle Board of Review.
Yeah.
And all its supporting documentation, receipts, everything, basically it becomes a 3-ring binder
Nancy here.
Has your internet been down all day?
I haven't been home all day, so I don't know.
Oh, are you Spectrum?
You must have.
No, I'm using, what you call
I know
Rise.
AT&T.
Oh, okay, right.
AT&T got a bunch of stuff knocked out in Houston.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
Spectrum's been
I
on.
don't have them no more. I switched over to that Rise.
Yeah, Spectrum has a state outage because of something that happened in Houston, and then AT&T is.
At work,
Are you AT&T or?
no, I'm not. But at work, we could not receive calls
Evening?
from an AT&T number, but we could call them.
But you couldn't receive them.
So if they tried to
We're
call
already
you,
live.
your phone wouldn't ring. You would just get a text message saying that they couldn't
I
call
don't
you.
think they're seeing it though. I'm not seeing any
Yeah, I don't
reports.
Because Spectrum went out before noon today across the state, but then my AT&T, I can make phone calls, but it was forever to get a text message out, and I couldn't get on the internet on it. So I guess everybody jumped over to AT&T right away.
That or they were all using their hotspots on their phones.
Yeah, I think it was Microsoft did it.
Must have been. One of those evil giants.
Yeah.
Should I put my pen back in here? Of course not. Put it in here. Might have to use it.
Paul keeps me supplied.
I'm going this next weekend, so I'll resupply.
Read your beautiful handwriting. Is that
Oh,
correct?
dear no, dear Lord, he's out here, yes.
I was, they said that it's up, and so I sent you a text. Huh? She said that it could be
Well,
on the
here,
city's
right here.
Facebook page or on YouTube.
I just wrote it wrong.
No, not the city's webpage. She said it could be either on the
Yours,
Facebook page
yours.
or on the,
Okay.
on YouTube.
Deborah, we don't have internet here, do we?
Here?
Yeah,
At Spectrum? I thought we were Spectrum.
no, we have Rise.
Oh, you switch over to Rise. But not all the city facilities are Rise, are they?
They're all three out. Rise is out, Spectrum is out, Hughes Satellite is out. None of them have internet.
No.
Well, I don't know, I had internet a while ago.
So
but
you
mine's
have
in and
internet
out.
here.
Rise is working at my house.
Yeah, it was working here earlier,
But like the library at Spectrum is out at the library, right?
maybe so.
Spectrum's got a notice up that they've lost it.
I'm not sure, there may be some that's not on Rise because they don't have the fiber yet. And so, yeah, that could be easy, that could be
Okay.
true.
The reason I say that the college students they went over to the library, but the internet went down there.
Yeah.
It's, of course, we have Spectrum for them at the Castro house, and it's down, our house is down.
Right.
So,
Can
but
you
you
see?
think we do have internet here?
Yes.
Okay.
He's checking to see if he can see.
Yeah, in fact, I downloaded it.
Okay.
Okay, well, let me get off the.
From here?
Yeah, bad timing. There's a.
It's showing it's streaming, but I don't see viewers on two of them,
And all that.
or on Facebook, and usually I see how many people's looking.
Okay.
But
Okay,
it's also on YouTube.
all right, let me get, bye.
Love you too.
Can he,
Joe says it's up on YouTube, but there's a delay.
Okay.
okay.
Well, they do
Well-
that, so in case we cuss, they can
I don't know
push
what to
the
do on
button.
that one.
Yeah. I just got the verification, that's all I have.
Well, as long as we have something. Let me-
Yeah, exactly.
let me see.
Why this is not coming up? Borrow your charging cord for just a moment. This is not coming
I
on.
brought that for a reason. I did have to run over the top of it last time I wanted it.
Okay.
our trip here.
I probably just need it for a moment. All right, cool. Thank you, sir.
I've got about 50% battery. I'm gonna tone this down a little bit.
We don't have we don't have a.
We don't have an open Wi-Fi? We don't have an open Wi-Fi? I do not know what's going on with this. All right, is Scott coming back in?
He's supposed to, he's got the attorney, Cindy is not here tonight apparently, and the other gentleman.
The head,
Came in for,
Arnie's here, the head riffraff here, I believe.
but we can. Here he comes.
Good, how's it going? All right, we're gonna be just a moment. Okay.
Okay.
Met you once,
Yes,
a
we did.
long time ago.
A few months ago, so.
Yeah, and he survived. Hey, that's okay. Hopefully we won't be here as long as the last little young lady came and stayed
As
with
long
us.
as it's not 1:30 a.m.
He's driving me crazy.
We'll shoot for that. We'll shoot for that.
Why'd you curse us like that?
Who has the timer?
I have been in a meeting until 1:30, so.
We'll try to keep it to 1:15.
Yeah, we have to.
All right, Deborah, you ready?
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna call this meeting to order at 5:32. Let's start with a roll call.
Sheena Martinez, District 1.
Paul Carrick, District 2.
Bill King, District 3.
David Mers Jr. for District 4.
Herb Dyer, District 5.
And Darren Schroeder, Mayor. We're all here. If you will please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. First to the American flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And to the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
We have Pastor Alan Deerdorf.
Let's pray. Father, governance comes from you, and we can't have good governance if we don't seek your face first. So I ask, Father, that you would anoint these people, direct them, steer them to run this city as you would have them do, and bless each one as we ask it, Father, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, sir. All right, next item, let's have citizens' comments. Anybody that would like to come up for citizens' comments, please do so.
Name, address, 3 minutes.
Thank-
Houston Marchman, 1616 San Jacinto Street, here in Castroville. Just one comment from the June 11th meeting, and I misunderstood, but in the spirit of transparency going forward, I didn't realize that we could ask questions and have them answered. And I just wanted to say in future city council meetings, in cases, that would be a great way to provide more transparency and on the spot and kind of quell any misinformation that would be out there. And because I thought it was a rule. But anyway, that's all I had. I was just saying, please consider letting citizens ask questions to where you guys could answer. Thank you.
Thanks. Hi.
I always have something to say, y'all know that. First of all, thank you very much for putting the item 11 on, for taking appropriate actions on amending or not charging penalties for late payments on utility bills for senior citizens. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And you know, most of you, well, half of you were there. We did have the public town hall. It went on very well. I got a lot of feedback from it. Most of the people, the common thread was they were so grateful that they could ask and answer with the back and forth. And they would love to have that again. And they keep asking me when I'm gonna do one. And my answer is, I'll be happy to moderate for you. But right now, I don't see anything that I take issue with. So it might be something worth considering doing, maybe quarterly or something, just to you know, keep in touch with the citizens. That's simply a suggestion. So again, thank you very much, and thank you for finally doing the utility bill thing.
Thank you, Karen. Anybody else like to speak for citizens' comments?
Good evening, Lori Marchman, 1616 San Jacinto Street. I just received a notice today that we are currently now officially in stage 4 watering. And so, and I'm not really sure what that entails, so I would just like to make a request to council that they put some information out there for the citizens so that they can be well aware of what is going on with that and what they need to do and or change. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Does the text not include the restrictions?
I'll look into it. Got it right now, but.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Claudia Holzhaus. I reside at 306 Madrid Street. And I would just like to say that I've known Houston Marchman and his wife Lori for several years as neighbors and friends, and they are both very involved in our community. Houston is very personable, respected, and cooperative. He would be an excellent candidate for our planning and zoning board. I would also like to address the issue that's on the agenda of wanting to amend the rules for nepotism. On this issue of wanting to change or amend the city's rules on nepotism, I tried to find any benefits for this change, and I could find none. The big issue is why are we asking the council to amend nepotism rules? Nepotism rules are put into place to avoid the public appearance of any type of favoritism. Businesses, school districts, etc. have these same rules for these very same reasons. In my opinion, the city should leave the current rules in place as they are there for a good reason. In my opinion, you will open up a can of worms and it will cause problems. Thank you very much for your time and service to the city.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak for citizens' comments? All right.
Mayor and council, would y'all like any clarification of the points that were brought up during citizen comments? I can speak to either the back and forth question and answer issue that was raised, or the what was the other issue? Oh, the stage 4 watering restrictions.
Please.
Both?
Sure. Okay.
On the back and forth, there are two reasons council doesn't do back and forth. The first is the desire to follow Robert's Rules of Order. So we aren't strict adherents. Obviously, I don't think anybody in here is a true Robert's Rules expert, although I know several have been trained in it, and I think Paul talked about that at one meeting not too long ago. But that's one reason why the city doesn't engage in back and forth with the audience. It's not that they can't necessarily, but there's a desire to follow Robert's rules, and that's not something that's permitted under Robert's rules, is that back and forth. The other is, when we do hold town halls, there has been a change legislatively in the last, I believe, 4 years in the local government code that now states that you can't just kind of, in the past, like the mayor could call a town hall and have a separate meeting, and we could have a public meeting. Well, now all public meetings have to be noticed and published and treated as if they're a regular called council meeting or a special called meeting. Special called meetings require a certain number of attendants, a super majority of council, and that kind of stuff. So there's special rules that go with those. That said, when you call a special called, one of the things that I think we have learned through this process, and I appreciated the comments, because I do think, I wasn't super excited to go to that meeting. I was worried it was going to be a little bit of a witch trial, that kind of thing, and I appreciate your comments at the beginning where you said you're not going to let that happen, et cetera. So we've sought some guidance. Again, I think that was generally productive. We sought some guidance on whether that's how we could do that in the future. And it boils down to trying to define the topics that would be discussed and having a special called meeting for questions and answers related to those topics. Because, again, it goes back to state law. You have to be able to give proper notice to everybody about what might or might not be discussed at a meeting. That's the whole reason we have agendas and postings and posting requirements and all that kind of stuff. So that's the reason, there's no back and forth in council, and that's the reason why when we have a public or we have a town hall type meeting, we have to follow certain parameters. And if you have more specific questions about that, please let me know, and I'll get our city attorney to weigh in.
I got one question, because at the 11 June meeting that Houston mentioned, you started answering Karen's questions, and Phil interacted and said we're not supposed to be interacting, and that's when I looked specifically at Cynthia, and I'm like, what is the rule? And Cynthia says it's up to whoever's running the meeting.
Right. And that goes back to Robert's Rules of Decorum. So, and that's what I was talking about. So it's not that you can't have a back and forth during a council meeting about subjects that are on the spoken agenda, because that's the other thing is if it's an item that's on the posted agenda that says this is an item we're going to discuss tonight, then there is legally the ability to have a back and forth and question and answer type arrangement. But under Robert's Rules, that would be something that would be a different structure.
You have to vote to suspend Robert's rules.
Right.
Okay.
And again, there's a lot of technicalities when it comes to that, and I don't know very many councils that truly follow Robert's rules, and I'm not as well versed at them as I probably should be. So that's the back and forth on the questions. The other item that was raised was about stage 4. So we send out a public announcement that goes to anybody who signed up via email or text, and it's on our website. So if you aren't getting these announcements, this is kind of my advertisement for signing up. I encourage everyone to sign up. But when that went out, there was a link at the bottom of it that said, here's a link to the flyer, that then in the flyer it explains what you can and can't do in stage 4. So if you didn't see that text, again, it was sent on July 2nd, it had a link, click on the link, and it'll take you to the flyer. And then that same information, if you ever are just looking for it, you should be able to find it. I say should because our search function on our website's not the best. We're working on improving it. But you should be able to type in either stage 4. I think if you just type in stage 4, it should bring up what the different stages are and what the requirements are.
Yeah.
So all that's available on our website.
On Google, if you just put in stage 4 water restriction, Castroville, Texas, it'll bring it immediately up.
Right.
Without having to bring in the city webpage.
Yeah, please.
Can they not just put no watering once a week only, or what, on that same text? That would be simple.
Yeah,
So there is on the text we sent out via iInfo, there's a limited number of characters that you can put in the body of that text. And I don't know what that cap is, but that's generally, if you see limited information going out on iInfo, a lot of times it's because we've met our character limit. It's a relatively short text. And we try to use links for that reason. Go ahead.
I was gonna, if you go to the website, it has whatever water restrictions we're in across the top, and you can click
right there, and I have it super zoomed in. But it does explain what the current restrictions are right there too. But I can't remember them either.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, thanks for the clarification. Next item is on the consent agenda. So on the consent agenda, we have minutes for June 20th, 2024, special called City Council and P and Z Commission joint work session meeting. And we have minutes for June 25th, 2024, regular call meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Scott, my computer's not coming up. Can you access the mayor's report? Oh, actually, here it comes.
And y'all have hard copies of that, by the way, in front of you.
Do you have the dongle?
Yeah, can I get that?
Simplified version?
Well, that's coming up. I'm going to table this one. Let's go on to the council board liaison reports, and then we'll come back to the mayor's report. So on July 1st, we had the Airport Advisory Board. We have Councilwoman Martinez.
So, we met the new airport manager, Mike Haley. He's coming to us from Fountain, Colorado, where he was risk manager for not only the city, but also the county. He's got many, many years as far as, working with city government and managing money, manpower, resources. So he's going to be training with Brianna to learn the details, and he said he's gonna look up the detailed history from the deed of the airport all the way up to present, and any issues going on, but he's eager and we welcomed him. Fuel sales for May, ag gas, they made a profit of $19,000. Jet fuel, $11,000. In June, the ag gas was $22,000 and jet fuel was $10,000. They're getting ready to award the contract to install the new AWAS out at the airport. It should be, once it's awarded, Brianna said that it should be done in about 90 days, and there's no change in the location. It's just going in the same place that it was at. STEM Museum, we did not get the grant money for that, so that's on hold for right now. They're still waiting for the report from the FAA inspection that was done. TxDOT will be coming out and doing the repairs on where they did the sealing of the runway and the apron. There's gaps and puddling and everything when there's not supposed to be, so they're gonna be coming out and fixing that. It should be covered under warranty work. Then they are working on, getting board members, people to sign up to be board members, because 2 of our members have decided not to renew and have stepped away. The emergency response plan is progressing nicely, so they're hoping to have that to city council here soon for us to review, as well as the attorney to review and approve. And the next meeting is the 5th of August.
Great. Next, we have Historic Landmark.
I had a question.
Oh, yeah.
You said profits, were those are profits, not gross sales?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's great.
That's how Brianna said, this is what we made, so.
All right, next we have Historic Landmark Commission, June 18th. Councilman King.
They had one issue come up, it had to do with a request on a fence, and they, they denied that and asked, to go back to the homeowner to update the plan.
Okay. Next we have the Library Advisory Board, Councilman Dyer. It was June 13th.
The board met on June the 13th. The majority of the meeting was spent on taking a tour of the library with the city administrator, looking at all the storage areas and the things that were being stored. And the city administrator provided policy guidance about future use of foods in the library. in the past, we did a lot of library activities involving cooking demonstrations and things like that. And the long and the short of it is, the library accumulated a great deal of leftover open foodstuffs and things that were used by the demonstrators. In the future, the policy is going to be changed, or has been changed, and the library will not be storing any foodstuffs or things like that. If a person is going to come in and do a presentation, they're going to be required to bring everything that they're going to need, and then when their presentation is finished, they will take everything with them. And so the things that used to be stored will no longer be stored. It was a health hazard because we had so much old stuff. The other thing of significance is 2 of the regular members have indicated that they're not going to renew their participation, so we're going to have some vacancies to fill in the near future. That's all I have to report.
Great, thank you. Next, we have the Parks and Recreation Board, June 19th. Councilman Mercer.
I was not able to attend that meeting.
Okay. Then we have the Planning and Zoning Commission, June 20th. The joint work session with City Council, Councilman Carey.
Right, we had the work session with Simple Cities and continued to work through the issues on the interim development plan, or development policy, I should say. We will yet have another meeting to complete that process.
All right, and then we did not meet, the Economic Development Corporation Board did not meet in June. All right, I have this up, let me toggle these back on. Okay, so the things in my report this month, July 4th was, I would say in many aspects, it was a raging success. We'll talk a little bit about the AMI, the water savings, our automated meters, talk about the Mayor's Corner, the intent, and some other items on there. Code compliance is something that's come up a number of times. I'll address that. We'll talk a little bit about the effort that is the Aquifer Storage and Recovery Project. It's a county-wide project. A little bit about our youth sports priority, and then just an update on the comprehensive master plan update. Okay, so for July 4th, we had, I don't have all of the numbers, we had several thousand people both at the parade and at the regional park. We had 112 parade entries. I understand that's one of the largest that we have ever had. There was an issue with throwing candy, so the police chief and the fire chief determined that it was too dangerous. They didn't want to squish kids, and so they said, we don't want to throw candy outside. They allowed people to stand outside and toss it out, throw it out. They just didn't want to squish anybody. So the chamber made the call not to throw candy. Some people thought it was very smart. Some people thought it was very stupid, and we'll continue to work through that.
And to clarify, they don't want people tossing candy from the floats.
From the
If you
floats.
wanted to walk next to the float, you could
I
get
thought I
as
said
much
that,
candy
yes.
as you like.
Yes.
And we had a fire department and an ATV right behind Paul, Gary, and I throwing candy left and
Yeah.
right.
Good.
And all
Good
those
job.
folks throwing candy, no one on the walking, so.
Nobody got run over.
Nobody got run over.
Right.
but,
The chamber gave out 20 watermelons. They went really quickly. I didn't get the total number of hot dogs, but
700 hot dogs, and they were gone within 15 to 20 minutes.
nice. 750 hot dogs.
750?
How to make 1,000 hot dogs go poof.
Yep. We did have 2 announcers this year. It was really nice. Darren Ham set up shop over by the Magnolia Filling Station. And then we had Judge Lutz again doing the announcements over at Houston Square. In the evening, we had 9 food vendors. We had some great fireworks. It was a full 15 minutes of fireworks. I did talk to some folks that, one of my neighbors, he and his family stood outside on they live across the street from me, right across from the regional park. He said it's definitely something that you need to be in the park to see, to enjoy, but everybody that was in the park was just blown away. It was absolutely phenomenal. Staff did an amazing job of getting everybody in, getting everybody out, getting all of that coordinated. The coordination between staff and the chamber, I thought was absolutely excellent. So I was just very, very impressed with that. So I got a couple of pictures from it. Had some great floats this year. I talked to a couple of people at the regional park. They actually thought that the John Wayne impersonator was the mayor. So I'm like, no, it's the goofy guy with the hat and the squirt gun. That was him. The Grand Marshal, of course, Mrs. Habe, always just outstanding. Had her family riding right behind her. They all came in to support. That was really great. Of course, we've got Yvonne from Funky Chunky. Jules doing her thing. I love the penguin. Or excuse me, the flamingo. Yeah. So here's just a couple of other ones. The Alsatian dancers.
Hey, that one there in the upper right, they got second place.
Wow.
For floats. And it's because
Impressive.
We had kids on the float. That's all it takes.
Nice.
Bring a kid.
The concert was great. We had our first responders there. I was talking to somebody from, I think it was the UPS driver was saying he lives in Cibolo, and they had their fireworks show, and they had this massive fire in the middle of it, right during it. And so they stopped to put it out, and then everybody left thinking it was over. So we had all our first responders there just to make sure the fireworks company did a great job of setting it off. You can't really see here. Did we figure out how many total people we had there? It looked to be, I don't know, 6,000?
Yeah, easily.
I thought it was pushed.
We've never parked as many cars as we parked that night. That we set a record.
How many cars do we park?
I don't know the number of cars, but I asked several of our staff, like, what do you think, estimates? They know they've had 4,000 in the park, and this was more than that, so.
I was thinking it was closer to 10,000 actually.
I don't think it's 10, but it was a lot.
Close. I said close, not there.
It was a lot.
He doesn't know.
Yeah, I did a spin around and just started counting big blocks of people, and there's a lot of people there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Best fireworks display I've ever been to.
That's awesome.
But that's because it's the closest one I've ever been to.
Yeah, I think we had a couple of lessons learned, and my intent is to have a debrief after, and just find what are those little nuanced items that we can do better next year. So every year we continue to get better and better, and the volunteers are really what make this happen. There's so many people that put this together. We had nine food vendors this year, which was a lot better. In past years, we haven't had as many. So the food vendors that were there said that they were very happy with that. I just think there weren't quite enough of it. So that is something that the chamber is working on for next year as well.
By the way, your thing said 99 food vendors. You said 9, but it doubled.
Oh, 99.
Huh, interesting. 99, yes, I multiplied it just like that. Amazing, right? Okay, so the electronic meters. This has been something, one of the reasons that we did this, we talked about this in the very beginning. The city uses these to help detect leaks. I was at the Go Medina meeting today, the board meeting, and one of the board members was complimenting Medina Electric for, she's like, we went out and you responded before we even knew that we were out. He's like, well, we use automated meters on all of the homes. And so it's those kinds of things that allow us to be very proactive. We had, so unfortunately, we only have 46 people that are signed up for this, that are signed up to access their own information. But again, to staff's credit, they are looking out for anomalies and pointing out where people are having some issues. They found one, it was a leaking toilet that accounted for 45,000 gallons of water in a month. And it was in an unused portion of the house. So they were able to find that. I think that we had a number of different ones. There were under a foundation, toilets leaking in a detached building, toilets used in unused portions of the home, garden hoses left on, outdoor faucets accidentally left on. So they can see when there's constant use, and they are proactively reaching out to people. We've had some other complaints in the past about why is my sewer bill so high, and we've expressed to them, you probably have a leak, and this is actually demonstrating where people do have leaks. So,
and I'll just tell you, as someone who's not very technologically savvy as far as computers and software goes, it is very intuitive. So I've set it up. You can look at your your daily average usage, your monthly average usage, and you can set alerts that says, when I exceed the daily average usage by this amount or this percentage, I can't remember which, then send me an alert. And I've gotten, it's very, very handy. I've gotten 2 alerts. I have 3 daughters, and they're all home, and they're all taking showers. I get an alert. But it's been very, very helpful, and it's super easy to use, and you're right, 46 people. I mean, we need to get more people signing up on this, because takes 10 minutes to set up.
I couldn't get on. I tried for 2 days.
Well, we need
I'm
to
gonna
get,
have to come in and somebody's gonna have to show me.
yeah, we'll need to show you how to do it.
And I'll be honest, I am very tech savvy, and I still have not been able to get it set up.
All right.
So
That's
it is
a
not-
ringing endorsement.
It just took
Well,
me
I will
10
tell you,
minutes.
Kathy, I did get some help, because I called Kathy and said, hey, walk me through this. And
Right.
she walked me through it. But
Yeah, she walked me through it too, and it still didn't work. So I think that we have some anomalies, and it's something that, the system is what it is. I also had a problem with signing up for iInfo before, and when the folks came in from that, like, I had signed up for everything correctly, and so sometimes you just have anomalies in the system, so.
Yeah, I'm still one of those.
Yep.
By the way, again, when they sent out the thing, I sent an email to Kathy. She responded with the code. I put the code in. It was a very simple process for me, no big deal. But like you, I get these. I set 300 gallons a day. If I exceed that, Mary and I at home alone, no problem. When the kids come in, it goes up. But I'm one of those also. I had a 20,000 gallon a month leak in a remote toilet that was constantly running, and this was the month before this came on. So it's a godsend. Are you all planning to do this for electricity also, or just water?
yeah, I don't know if it has that functionality for electricity. I'll have to find out. It may already be there.
Oh, so far we only, the thing shows the 3 of them, but the water's the only
Yeah, I'll
one
have to
that's
find
coming
out if
through.
we can add that or not.
Okay.
So if anybody wants to get signed up for this, you can email pwadmin@castrovilletx.gov. You can also call Public Works at 830-931-4090.
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
So let's talk about the Mayor's Corner. This month's Mayor's Corner, I'm going to hit this head on. It was kind of a frou-frou thing because I was still trying to collect information that people wanted. I want to make sure that we are dealing with fun things, we're dealing with hard things, and what I'm asking for people is to send in your request. If you want to get more information, we will be setting up some town halls, but if you want me to cover any information, we have about a page or 2 pages that we can handle. This month, it's going to be about what's gone on at Lions Park, what we're looking at for Lions Park. And then these are some of the future topics. So things, I am on the wrong page. Okay, here we go. So it's dealing with things like, how are we dealing with growth? Again, this is something we'll do at Town Hall, I think probably the first week in August, where there is the opportunity for back and forth. But we'll also put something out for the people who can't make it to the Town Hall, just to give them a high-level thing and let them know, what is the timeline? When do you need to start looking out for things? This last development agreement started over 2 years ago, and people didn't know to look out for it. And so it's really giving people a timeline, what things to look out for in the community, like a for sale sign is one major key thing to look for. And then what are the verbiage in the city council agendas, so that people understand, what does this mean? What is the implication of this? So just kind of letting people know better what to look out for as they're looking out for these, if they're concerned with it. Policy changes, things like we've talked about the golf court ordinance, and I think we're going to be covering that in the next meeting or two. Things like maybe like the Small Business Expo. We have a Small Business Expo in July 25th at the American Legion Hall. That was supposed to be on the agenda, so I'm just saying things like that. Small Business Expo for existing and new businesses. If you want to go learn more about doing business, the SBA is going to be putting this on Thursday, the 25th, 9 to 2 p.m. at the American Legion Hall. Things like that might go on there. Other things like the code compliance issues, how we're dealing with this, especially as we're rolling out new policies, to let people know, hey, look out for this. There is a change that we're looking at. There's a change that's coming. So I really want to hit some of these things, some of the city budget details, and then potentially even other volunteer opportunities that are available, because I've heard a lot of people ask, where can I get involved? What can I do? So if you have other topics that you would like to to submit, please send them. There's a QR code on the utility bill, and that goes to our intern and to myself. So she'll be helping shape which ones are the most requested so that we can answer those. Code compliance. This has been a bane in our existence. So this has been requested a number of times, and it's been a challenge because it's not as simple as, like with some of the things that we have to deal with, there are implications for every decision that we make. There are cascading impacts. And so one person says, why aren't you enforcing this on my neighbor? And the other person says, well, why are you enforcing this on me? And so it's trying to find what those look like. And I think that Scott actually found a really good example of that. I think that's going to be on the next city council agenda, correct?
Yeah.
So we're working through that. We're looking at some software that'll make it a little bit better, easier to track, because it's very hard for us, even with the improvements that the chief has made to the reporting structure, it's really hard to understand what is happening with these. Some of the other challenges are, you know, how strict do we need to be? In what categories? Because there are certain categories. If you think about like blight, yards, encroachment, those kinds of things, how we would probably be more strict on that than maybe something else. And so it's finding out where that is, where we're going to really tighten it up, and then identifying the costs. And then the other challenge we have is the court process. So we can do all of these things, but then we also have a prosecutor that we do have some influence over in terms of what we want to pursue, but then we have a judge over whom we have absolutely no authority and cannot tell what to do, and that would be totally inappropriate. So there's some challenges even beyond this, but we are hitting them head on and hope to have some movement on this very soon. So again, a great opportunity for this as we start going through this, getting that out in the mayor's corner and letting people know, by the way, these are the areas you really need to start looking at. These are the areas that we're going to start enforcing. Here's how you can deal with it. Here's where you can get help, that kind of thing. So the timeline, City Council has asked staff to have the proposal as soon as possible, and we're expecting something coming in from staff, either the next meeting on the 23rd or the following one on 8/13. So we are taking it very seriously and we are moving forward with it. The Aquifer Storage and Recovery Project. So Councilman Dyer's actually brought this up a number of times, that we're at risk because we have one sole source of water, and that is the Edwards Aquifer, and that's all we have. If something happens to that, we are in danger. Bigger cities, bigger water systems have, like Saws has the resources to get out and come up with alternate sources, and they have a tremendous base where we have a very, very small base. So this has actually come up, this Aquifer Storage and Recovery Project. It's a group of people, all of the water serving entities in Medina County. So that's anybody that is serving water inside of Medina County. I think this is actually being led by Yancey Water, and each one of the cities is participating in this, and that also includes the other, anybody that has a water service area, even if it extends outside of the county, anybody that has any kind of service area inside of the county is being invited to this to share in the costs. The county put up the initial, I think it was $90,000 for the feasibility study, basically taking the water when it comes, storing it in an aquifer, and making it available to the members to be able to withdraw it. So lots of complexity. It's going to be a long time for them to figure out exactly how that works, but it's very good that they're actually starting to look at this.
And I talked to Larry Setter. He brought this up, the project and everything, and he said that the federal government, they have access to grant money in the billions. So they're really, really trying to get this all done that way, where everybody in Medina County has the backup water just in case, since we only have one source. But he said that they're working it left and right and making progress.
And I really commend the way that the county's dealing with this. Again, I was in a meeting with Judge Lutz earlier this morning, and he was saying, you know, there's a lot of money that's available. We want to be on the front end of it where it's available, and not the back end of it where we're getting the scraps. So that's why they were being very proactive and looking out for the different water service areas. We've talked about youth sports being a priority. And we have lots of youth sports here. We have done a lot of things to support the youth sports. I know it's never enough. A bored kid is a very dangerous thing. I know that when I was in high school, I was bored at times and I got in trouble sometimes. So we try and make sure that people have the opportunity to participate in youth sports. And we've done a lot of things for swimming, for diving, for youth baseball, the baseball in Lions Park, the Medina Valley Youth Baseball, and then in the regional park, the soccer, the league, the club in Lions Park. So trying to make sure that we're making this a priority. We've talked about, I think that Councilman Dyer called it the Castroville, oh, there was that name for it, I don't remember. But it's basically looking at a sports complex. So, so one of the things that we have done, we don't have the money. These things cost millions of dollars, sometimes tens of millions of dollars, and we don't have the funds to do that. But what we have done is to reach out to different entities. Phil had introduced us to some folks, and they're like, yeah, sure, you can do a feasibility study for $100,000. And we don't have $100,000 to spend on a feasibility study. So we're looking for different partnerships where we can partner up with different people to bring these things in. And one of the takes that, again, to the credit of staff, putting this together, putting it in front of our Economic Development Corporation, one of the ways that we can do this is to use it as an economic development tool, where we can pull in some grants, some other funding, create a system where we can take additional donations, including land or other things. So we're going to bring it in front of the EDC for the next meeting, and that will be on
This Thursday.
This Thursday. And
So-
we still have the 1.5 million that from Collins, right?
Alsatian Oaks.
That's correct.
Or-
Yes.
Okay. Don't forget.
It has some stipulations around that, but absolutely, yeah.
Don't forget, we also have the youth football that does football games in the park during the fall.
Good point, thank you. All right, comprehensive master plan. So, didn't have any notes on this. So this is nothing new. I wanted to put this up. This is actually our webpage. You can look at the previous planning documents. It happens, it's supposed to, the comprehensive plan needs to be updated, really it's about every 5 years. It's been happening every 5 to 10 years. So this is just a part of the cycle. If you look through some of the things that have been proposed in some of the other ones, there's been some really great stuff, some really crazy stuff, but we took that as a foundation and we've really tried to build upon that. But if you'd like to go see some of those other, the previous plans are on the website. A link to our current plans are, or the process for that. We're still working through some issues of some potentially leading questions. I talked to one person who was very frustrated. She went to fill it out and she's like, I don't have time to do this. And it didn't give her the answer that she wanted to give. And so she got frustrated and stopped it. And so we're working through how we can improve that process so that we're not asking you, do you want A, B, or C? And you say, I want D, and not being able to say it. So trying to work through what that looks like. But the bottom line is that we engaged these people specifically because we wanted a great amount of public input with this. So this is where we are right now. We've completed the design rodeo. We're going into the code rodeo. That'll be August 6th through 9th. Now I put up here at the end of July. We don't have the exact date yet. I don't believe we've got that nailed down, do we, Deborah? The date for the joint P&Z.
We're gonna do that tonight. We hope to work on that tonight.
I'm like, I hope we don't do it tonight. It's not on
No,
the agenda.
We're gonna schedule it tonight.
Okay, perfect. So we'll announce that date as soon as that comes up. The code rodeo is going to be the first week in August, August 6th through 9th. What I'm going to try and do is have the, if we can swing it, I'd really like to have the public hearing before that happens so that people can go into it with some knowledge, with some ammo to bring up additional questions, to bring up concerns and know exactly how to get plugged into that. And then we'll do, so that is building the code framework. You'll be able to see, based on the code, what does that actually look like in practice? I know that there's been some concerns about what is actually going to go into the code. What does that look like? Is it a complete deviation from what we've done in the past? And so this is a chance for us to demonstrate exactly what does that look like so that people can see it concretely. out on the street, you see a bunch of signs that say, come and be a part of the future. Those are all up on there. That is also on our website with details. That one is going to be at American Legion Hall.
I believe so. The next one's at American Legion. So the short answer is yes. These are public meetings where we encourage public participation from anyone and everyone.
They also take online participation if you log on to their website.
So do we know when and where the next one is? The next one's at August, is it August 6th?
6th through 9th. That's what, when Simple City came and gave a presentation to the chamber, and that was the date that they had on there, so that's the date that I grabbed off of there.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
In the Code Rodeo and the follow-on to it, the community roundup, is somebody on the staff going to produce some kind of a document that shows all the things that used to be in our code that we took out, and all the things that were not in our code that we put in, so that every citizen doesn't have to do a word-by-word comparison of the current ordinances with the proposed ordinances? Because that's gonna be a monumental job for somebody.
The short answer is yes. That's in the scope that you all approved with Simple City, that they're required to put that together. So they're actually putting together a side-by-side comparison of the current ordinances, the CZO, and any other ordinances that would be applicable, and then what this comprehensive or unified development ordinance is. So there'll be a side-by-side comparison. Now, we'll get to judge the quality and accuracy of it, but they are putting that together, and I've been reassured a couple different times that they're working on that, so.
All right. If there's any other questions, please do contact us afterward, and we'd be happy to go into more information.
I think she was
Karen,
looking for a date and time, August.
a date and time,
6th.
yeah,
I
it's
don't
up here.
have the-
August
I have the
6th
dates,
through
don't have-
9th is the date that we were given.
Yeah, we don't have times yet. Typically, we try to do them both in the afternoon and evening, so but we'll get more information as the date gets closer, so I don't have that right now.
Sure. I think that was it on that one. So what all is included with this? So this is the comprehensive plan that also includes, encompassed under that is the ordinance update and the downtown master plan. And again, if you go back to the site here, you can see there are elements of that in each one. There was one, I think there was one specific, the downtown conservation revitalization study that Texas A&M did back in 2010. So there are elements of each one of these that are in there. So I wanted to hit a few things. And so there's some general questions and some specific questions. So what are we doing? I just went over that. Why are we doing this? It's because it's required by law every 5 years, and it's a good idea to put together your plans, update them. Again, we don't throw away all the other plans. We studied the previous plans first. There were a lot of elements that were in there. Like one of them, I think it was the 2010 or the 2013 that said remove parking spaces from Houston Square and put in more green. And there's been a lot of feedback that that's probably not the great idea. So it's trying to figure out what elements that we want to continue with that. There are some things that that were put in some of those previous ones that we wanted to take out. And so but this is just part of the process. So I had somebody ask me, why are you trying to change Castroville? And much to the opposite, what we have tried to do is to study Castroville, to see what is great about Castroville, and try and repeat it on the outskirts. Try and protect it. We have a little bit more ability to protect it now that we have the, once we figure out what the actual rules are inside of the historic district, we'll have a little bit more protection in that. The expanded historic district that happened back in 2017, and so we are working through that, but we do have some ability to control things like materials, construction materials, and some other things inside of that. So we do have a little bit of that, but outside of that, we really have very, very little control. So we're trying to take a picture of what makes Castroville great, take it from being, I love this place, but why, to things that are actually defined, and that's what this process is all about. And so another question is, how are you dealing with different opinions of what good looks like? So we've talked about some people love having the garage right up at the front. Some people like having it in the back. Some people really care about the historic vernacular, and some people really are tired of hearing about that. And so we have a bunch of different opinions. We have a bunch of different things that are important to certain people that aren't important to other people. And so we're trying to bring all of these together and figure out what is it that the majority wants. And so it's not an easy thing to do, but we're doing our best. I know that Temple City has even put out some ideas that met with, some were great ideas and some were pretty much stinkers, lead balloons. Another question, why are you pushing for density? So there is nobody here that is pushing for density. There are people on the outskirts that are pushing for density, and part of this, part of setting up our codes is defining the areas of, what did they call it? Areas of conservation, the areas that we emphatically don't want to change. So there are, if you look throughout Castroville, there are areas that have changed over the years, over the decades. You have things that have been subdivided dramatically and slightly, and so it's putting that and just saying, okay, so in this area, stop asking for it because this is not what we want in this area. We're not pushing for density. We've thrown out some ideas for some pockets of density. So in the outskirts, there is the possibility of, they call it cluster development, where you still have an average homes per acre, but they happen in clusters with a lot of green space around them, still create some openness. So we're looking at options for that, and honestly, I would rather leave it all farmland and not have anybody develop, but the fact is that people are selling property, they're buying property, and they're developing it. So we're trying to deal with what we can within the laws that are available to us. There was a question about changing the name of Paris Street to Main Street. I debunked that rumor. That is hopefully, there was, I think that they had called it the Main Street. The Main Street, as they defined, was really Fiorella and then down Paris. And so that was kind of more of a name definition, not a street name change. So that is.
I'm sorry, there may also be someone, one of the things that cities can pursue is becoming a main street city.
Right.
And, if we were to pursue that designation, I don't believe we have that now, but if we were to pursue that,
We looked at it.
we would do it based on Houston Square and Paris.
Paris and Fiorella, our Main Street area, we're not changing the name
Right.
of Paris.
But that may be
to Main
another
Street.
reason why people got confused, is because
Yep.
there has been talk about main street cities and that kind of thing.
I think that rumor came along when they wanted to get rid of French fries back about 10 years ago and call them something other than French fries.
Another question came up. This was actually about the latest design iteration for Houston Square, and they said, well, I see a bunch of trees. Who's going to fund all of this? If you look at some of the elements that were in, and I'll show you some of the elements that have been in some of the past ones, we're not saying we're planning on building all this stuff out. There are some areas of beautification. We're not trying to build anything anywhere right now. The city is not, we're not a developer. We don't want to be a developer. We're looking at for different options and trying to figure out putting it into a master plan, just like what we have done with our parks master plan. If something comes in front of us and somebody wants to do something at the parks, if it doesn't exist in the parks master plan, we say first, go get it in the parks master plan, or do something that is in the parks master plan. So it guides people and lets them know. We had a group, actually Paul Carey's daughter helped us start working with a group that wants to donate trees. We had trees donated, I guess it was about 2 years ago, that Arnie helped us coordinate with $50,000 worth of trees that we ended up putting over in Lions Park. That was a donation. We have another, I think we're looking at $25,000 of trees right now of donations. And so we're trying to figure out, where does that go? Where is it appropriate? It sounds like we have landed probably in the regional park to go back and backfill some of the legacy trees that have died there. So we're still working through that, but it's really making sure that we have things like everything else, making sure that we have the plan in place. So I would say, don't be too concerned about it, but definitely be concerned about it, because if it is in there, it is a possibility. So we'll continue to work through that. And we are not looking at funding 40,000 trees planted in Castroville tomorrow. If I can ask the audience to please keep the voices down. Some of the questions seem misleading, and and it feels more of a justification than a question, and that was the thing that I had addressed on the online version. We definitely do need to fix that. And then actually at the chamber meeting, we had somebody from the chamber say, why haven't you considered St. Louis Church an old-fashioned Christmas? And the fact is that we have. We have engaged with them, I think that Simple City didn't realize the full extent of it, but it was brought up, and we're addressing it, and we're seeking input from both to make sure that everything that is in these plans that is impacting anybody, and it's not just those, it's also the Lutheran Church, it's the businesses that are around it, it's the people that live around there. We're asking everybody for their input with this. So,
I have a question.
Yep.
Are we making sure that there is a section in the ordinance regarding mobile homes and trailer parks?
that is currently in there. It is in our CZO about mobile homes and trailer parks.
Okay, because I've had a lot of people calling and complaining about some of the mobile homes that are being moved in, and the sidings are ripped off, or they're not anchoring it, they're not putting skirts on the bottom, and they were told that there's nothing in the ordinance that says that they have to.
That's a perfect item. Sorry, that's a perfect item to include in this to make sure that it's covered. And that's part of why this process takes so long, because there's so many little elements, things that we've missed in the past that we want to make sure that we include in here. So,
That
good
was
call.
gonna be my question of when was this come back? We're getting ready to hit a year since we've been discussing this.
Yeah, and they put a lot of work into this.
Okay.
So these are some, this is actually, on the left is one of the designs for Houston Square. This is from a previous, one of those documents that I showed you from a previous iteration. Another one, I think this was the Texas A&M students that put this together. This is a picture of the Public Works Yard, and what they were proposing for that was a new city hall and a library. It seems a little bit large, but that was what they had proposed back then. And just like what they had proposed back then, it was an idea, it was a thought. I am always concerned when something like that is in a master plan, if that's not something that I support, because it might be considered without, unless I'm staying on top of it, without me being aware of that, and so that would put me at pause. So we have looked at some different possibilities for the Public Works Yard. Are we trying to do this tomorrow? Absolutely not. Do you need to give your input about what you don't want there if something happens? Again, we're not actively pursuing it, but if it does, then please do give that input. And I know that some people have given that input of things that they don't want there, some things that they would like to see there. I think ultimately we have an opportunity to make that look a little bit better, but we need to do that carefully. So this is the latest iteration from Simple City. This is what they gave at the chamber luncheon. You can see that it's drastically different from some of the other things that you've seen. We've still got to work through. I think if you look toward the right-hand side is where St. Louis Church is. I think there's some more work that needs to be done there, because I think that we lose too much parking that's close by the church. But then if you look in front of La Park, that area would be probably ripe for something like that, because it is just kind of concrete jungle there. So we'll continue to work through that as we go. And how do you make sure that your voice is heard? Continue to come to the meetings. Karen's question about when are these things happening? If you'll look, we have the websites that are on there, those notifications, or you can get signed up for those, so you can find out exactly where it is. We'll put out additional notifications in advance. We're trying to let as many people know as possible. So please do pay attention. I think that the word of mouth gets around pretty well as well, but we don't want to just rely on that. So that is it. Sorry, that was very long, much longer than I intended. Okay. Next item is presentation and appropriate action on a proposed Eagle Scout project of installing bat boxes at Regional Park by Scout Juan Flores, Troop 518. For this, we have Jonah.
No.
And Juan. Oh, sorry.
He wants the dongle.
Oh, you want the dongle. You got it.
project too. So, my name is Juan Flores. I'm from Troop 518, and this is my project for an Eagle Scout. So, for the bat boxes, the main thing that y'all guys will probably ask is why have the bats? And for one thing, they really help with the mosquitoes and keeping their population down. And other bugs as well. So especially during the spring and summer, around the water areas where they'll start hatching up. And they also are pollinators. So I heard that you had trees donated here. They'll also help with pollinating and spreading out the trees around as well. And another big thing, safety. Thanks to where they're located, so bats are nocturnal, so they'll only come out at night when nobody's at the park, and then also they're kind of afraid of humans, so they also stay away from them. And we also went to Mitchell Lake Wetlands, where they also had some bat boxes set up. These are the new ones. They painted them white and put metal roofing on top so it would deflect the sun and not overheat. They just set it up so there aren't any bats in it yet, but that's kind of how they look like. And these are the older models that they had. They were painted black, so got really hot inside of them, and it was a nice meal, though. So one of the designs that I'm planning on doing is called the Rocket Bat Box, because of the shape of a rocket, where you just have a pole and then it slides on top of the pole 15 feet in the air. And because of the shape it's in, they can choose which side to go on. So during the summer when it gets really hot, when the sun comes up, they can choose to go on the side that's away from the sun. And then when it comes down, they can go on the other side. There's also the 4-chamber box, and as you can see on the model over here, I plan on having 2 of them back to back, so if they want to change spots when it gets hot, they can just fly to the other side. And also it holds a lot of space since there are 4 areas and it goes pretty deep inside the box. And then there's also all these vents for wind to get through it. And the other thing is where to put it. So I located 3 spots on where I think they should go. Mostly an area that's generally close to water. And then there's this abandoned telephone pole where I can stick 2 of them up there. It kind of looks something like this. Now the one on the bottom, we're not fully solid on putting it there since it's slanted, but that'd be like the general location would be somewhere around there since it's got a nice water stream over there. And this is a bigger map to show you a better idea on where they're located. Cost and material, so we'll need 2 flagpoles, and then of course cedar wood to make it, since it's weather resistant, so that way it lasts a while. And then concrete to hold up the flagpoles, and the aluminum brackets to hold up the boxes on top of the telephone pole, along with silicone and very light paint so that way we can paint a light color that doesn't get overheated, and also sheet metal roofing. And it would cost around $740, so generally cheap for an eco project. Here's a better look at the blueprints, if you're interested. And then as for maintenance, since we're using weather-resistant material like cedar and weather-resistant screws, we'll be able to keep them on there and really not worry about it. And then thanks to gravity and the entrance being at the bottom, any bat feces that might be left over will just fall out, and then the bugs will take care of the rest.
How many bats will each monster do you know?
Not certain, but they hold at least dozens.
Because they grew together. They're not like bugs.
Any questions?
Councilman Kerr?
And Herb had one too. I noticed that one of the locations you had was alongside the BMA Canal. And the canal has they are their own entity. They have a right-of-way there that it's either 100 to 200 feet wide. And so if it's going to be in the canal right-of-way, we should make sure that's cleared with the BMA, so.
Thank you.
Councilman Dyer?
I think you might want to consider adding to your plan a sign that can be put on the bottom of the pole, just telling people not to climb on the pole, because if you don't tell them not to, they're gonna.
Yeah.
And we probably don't want to have kids shimmying up the pole, chatting with the bats.
Or throwing stuff at it to see what
Yeah.
flies out.
All right, thank you.
Councilman Martinez?
Thank you for the presentation. First, I love Eagle Scout projects. My son did the two bird observation platforms out in the park. I support it. And I'm the one that was the pain in the butt that asked for this, because this is what's supposed to be presented in when you're going for approval. Just a couple of recommendations. I would up the amount that you have on materials, because the price goes up a lot lately. I know the cedar boards are running about $59 right now each, so that's a good chunk. So just, it's best to estimate more than less. That way, if you have extra left over, you can donate it to the beneficiary, like to the parks or something, the Friends of Regional Park. Also, on your safety, make sure you add goggles and gloves, because somebody's gonna have the possibility of wood popping up in their eyes, or paint, or grabbing the wood and getting splinters in their hands and everything. So make sure you have that underneath your supplies and your safety issues. But otherwise, I love it. It's great. Good luck to you.
All right, thank you. Any other
Councilman King?
questions?
You probably said it, I'm sorry, but where's your funding coming from?
Well, right now it's just coming out of pocket.
I mean, you plan to go out and ask for donations from groups or individuals, or have a?
Yeah, at the the stores that I'm gonna go to get the supplies, I'm gonna see if they'd like to donate anything.
Sounds good.
Do up a letter, as they'll want to see what it is for. You present them with the letter. It answers all their questions.
All right, thank you.
Councilman Mercer?
You have a manufacturing project, so I take it you have access to table saw?
We have a jigsaw and we have hand saws.
Okay. I happen to know where you might get your hands on a table saw, let me know.
All right.
Okay.
Councilman Mercer, check.
No, sir, looks good.
Yeah, and congratulations, good luck, and all the best.
I just have one other question. So, question on the plywood. I'm a little bit concerned about plywood being on the exterior, because I know that that might have a lifespan of, is it cedar plywood?
Yes.
Oh, good job. And you're sealing around the edges?
Yes.
Nicely done. All right.
All right, thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. All right. So do I have a motion to approve the Eagle Scout project as discussed?
As the, so moved.
Great.
And second.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Martinez, a second by Councilman Carey. Any further discussion?
I have one question.
Yes, please.
Is the city obligated to any amount of money for this project, or is it all going to be paid for with donations?
You want to ask him?
It's all donations, so there's no obligation on the city's part?
No.
Thank
Great. All in favor?
you. Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Good luck. Thank you. All right, next item, we have consider and take appropriate action on applications reviewed for open positions on the city boards and commissions, interview new applicants, and consider requested changes to member positions on the Historic Landmark Commission. For this, we have Deborah Howe.
Yes, let me get there. I'm sorry. I tried to do this the easiest way possible. It was kind of hard. The first of this is the applications that y'all saw last meeting. There is two that you saw last meeting that I reached out to that were new applicants that did not come for y'all to be able to meet. I am not sure if those two ladies are here. They did not respond to my email. But for the library, on here it shows Samantha Murs, and she did let me know today that she has withdrawn her application to be reappointed. Obligations has changed, and she said she's not able to commit to the library like she feels like she should. So we will have an extra position open. Crystal Stutz is an alternate at this time, and she would like to move up to the full board position. In the parks, we have Adriana Arrington Kalk. She is requesting to be reappointed. And in your packet, it shows you what positions are open and what the ones that have requested to be reappointed is their position at this time. Also on the planning and zoning, Priscilla Garrett, she has asked to be reappointed. And if each one of these are put in their positions, you'll see the ones that are open. And then on the Historic Landmark Commission, Cindy and Dan Maloney would like to be taken out of the full board position, position 1 and 7, and be placed in the alternate. We do have two alternates that are on that board. If y'all wish to switch them out, it is a full board, and there is no openings at this time. I believe the two alternate positions right now that we have in there, I know one of them is, let me get to it, Rhonda Jacobs, and also, sorry, Tracy Schatz. And so if you wish to approve the Maloneys to be changed, you would just move the two alternate positions into the full board positions at this time. Their memberships come due at the end of October, and so that would be when the ones that would be coming up for reappointment or appointment, the terms would be open. And then if you want to go on to the second one, this is the first one that you would look at for possible action. Under this also, if you want to do this one at a time, the review of the new applicants we have for the library is Ms. Ramos, and she's one of the ones that I have not heard a response from. But we have Kelly Hogue here, and she has put her application in to possibly be on the library board. We have at least 3 full board, 1 alternate for that position. On the parks is Chelsea Hogue with the last name. I have not, if she's here, I'm not sure, because I did not hear back from her. And then on the planning and zoning, of course, is Houston Marchman. I do have one other applicant for a HLC board that was turned in But at this time, we don't have an opening, but I will hold it until we do for the next, when the terms are up.
Okay, so the ones that we're reviewing for the first time are Gracia, Kelly, and Houston, and then Chelsea was on the last one.
But she did not come in either for our interview, so really, basically, she's still new, because you have not been able to meet and speak
Okay.
with her either.
And you said that you did reach out to Chelsea?
Yes, all three.
Interesting, all right.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, well, let's, if we could first have Kelly come up and just thank you for volunteering. I appreciate you getting involved with this. And the shirt is amazing. Thank you.
I didn't see the back.
It's the Friends of the Library.
Oh, okay.
So I am currently, just, trying not to spread myself too thin, but I am currently on the Parks Board Advisory Council, and I am president of the Friends of the Library. And would just like to know a little bit more about what's going on so that the Friends can help support it a little bit better. So that is my reason for wanting to be on the Library Advisory Board as well.
Great. Any questions from council for Kelly?
I didn't understand. Are you asking to be on the library board
Yes, sir.
as a regular position
Yes.
or an alternate?
As a regular position. I had mentioned for the Parks Board that I'd prefer to go to an alternate for that if we have openings, but if not, I'm more than willing to do both positions.
Okay. And we're considering, we're not voting on Gracia or Kelly or Houston tonight, because this is the first time that we're hearing from them, but the other ones are available.
The natural question is, can someone serve on two boards? And I think we've asked that question before, and the answer is yes, right?
Yeah.
For those type of
Well, the only ones that you can't is P&Z and ZBOA.
I've got a question for Deborah. Samantha Mers has told you she's not gonna renew?
Yes,
So that's official?
yes, she sent me an email today.
Lacey Schott and Carol Junko have not told you yet?
No, they have.
Officially?
Yes, they have.
Yes,
That's
Schatz
officially.
has, yes.
So we have 3 vacant positions.
Correct.
3 full board positions
Okay.
vacant, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Great.
All right.
Thanks, Kelly.
All right.
So we'll vote on this on the next council meeting. Thanks for coming in.
You gotta sit at the edge of your chair
We can
until
vote
2
on one
weeks.
position tonight, right? We can vote on Crystal Stutes.
Yes, that'll be when y'all make motions for that. This was just interviews.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve moving Crystal Stutes from alternate position number 2 up to permanent position number 5 to replace Samantha Mers as a regular board member.
Great. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second?
All right. Any further discussion on that one? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, the next one is the, no, I'm losing my place. The next one is Parks.
This would be a reappointment. She's been on the, I know she's had at least 1 term.
Who are we speaking of?
I believe you're looking, are you, I'm
Who-
sorry,
who- Parks.
are we doing an emotion or are we
No, on
doing?
the Parks, I was just wondering, who are we speaking of? You said she.
Oh, Adriana,
Adriana, okay, thank you.
yes, I'm sorry. We're kind of going back and forth.
I know, that's why I wanted.
That's okay. And she's in position number 2 at this time. And she is also, I believe, chairman.
Okay, and you said that she is, let's see, on the Parks, we have
And she's reappointed.
2.
I would move to reappoint Adriana Kalk to the Parks Board.
I'll second that.
Great. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item is Planning and Zoning Commission. So on this,
This is Priscilla, is who is up for a reappointment. She has position number 1.
Okay, so she's up for reappointment. You said that Jeff is coming off.
Yes.
And Houston, could you come up and talk a little bit about yourself?
So, 1616 San Jacinto. So this part of my life, I don't think any of you know, but my dad was the first city manager of Plano, Texas. That's where I was born. And I know you guys, if you hadn't been to Plano, it used to be, when I was a kid, 75, there was nothing on the west side. And so a lot of my childhood was spent in the back row of city council meetings asleep when I had to go do the hang. And you know, so I was indoctrinated in that context. Then my dad went on to be a builder and a developer, and he developed most of West Plano. So with that experience as a child, I mean, I did everything from subs to, you know, surveys to, you know, with watching my dad. And in that context, it's similar in the process that we are seeing now, because Plano experienced exponential growth all the way through the 70s, 80s. Remember all of that? Ross Perot, EDS, all that stuff came. J.C. Penney. I hope that doesn't happen here. It's a different world, a different place, but understanding where growth comes and how it applies to an existing city, I have seen that. And so from that perspective, that's how I would approach the P&Z. Any questions?
Questions from council? A question for you. Are you you're staying on HLC as well?
Yes.
And you got permission from your lovely wife to
I
do
did,
both?
actually. Yeah, Lori said at first I couldn't be on two, but then she said,
Yeah.
oh, please.
Well, I appreciate you stepping up. I know we had asked you in the past. Thank you
you.
for allowing him.
Thank you.
All right, great.
I just want to say, because those two boards will often address the same issues,
Mhm.
I'm hoping that we're not looking at any kind of conflict of interest, but that's,
But we've already got a similar situation
With Mr. Priscilla.
Priscilla Garrett serving on both.
yeah. Okay, I just don't want those boards to be,
I think they're complementary, honestly.
yeah.
I'm
Well,
sorry, you had-
I kind of have the same concern as Mr. Carey, because specifically with the recently expanded authority of the HLC. I think we should try to possibly diversify those two boards a little bit from each other over the next couple of years. Try to find people to be on one or the other, just because they do wield a pretty substantial amount of power between them.
I've been on two boards here, so I'm not going to say much more.
I've been on two
We
boards.
have a lot of the folks that have done that.
Well, and a lot of it is, you know, it's getting enough people to
P&Z,
volunteer for it.
HLC.
I find it beneficial, though, to have them on planning and zoning, because when it comes up to any of our historic buildings or properties, they're right there and they can give the upfront answer on, this is the rules and everything. So I find it as a benefit to have them on the planning and zoning board.
Yeah, I think it, honestly, like, especially, your concern was with the expanded, newly acknowledged expansion, not newly expanded?
Well, in practice, expanded.
Right. I think it's actually beneficial because you're looking at really kind of the same things. And so specifically in that, understanding the codes that can go into place and the implication of what those codes are, I think it's helpful. Councilman Dyer.
I support Councilman Mers. I think it's a bad idea to have the same people on both of those committees. I really believe we should strive to get other citizens on there so that we don't have they're just too tied together. And when they work on one board and they make a decision, it's going to certainly affect the way they think about it on the other board. So I think it's a bad practice. These are two very important and very powerful boards. We don't get to take much in the way of objections. I mean, whatever they say is going to happen in most cases.
They are both advisory boards, and
Well,
P&Z wields a little bit more power because
I just think it's a bad practice, and I would like to see as minimal amount of duplication of the same members as possible.
I love it.
That would be my recommendation.
Get out and start recruiting. Okay, so.
Can I say something?
Yeah, please.
I'm the only one who hadn't said anything. thought I needed to say something. If you think about it, P and Z really doesn't, in practice, do a lot inside the historic area, in practice. And the HLC does, and I do see there's some benefits, but if that's a policy city council wants to take, that's a different discussion from here, because right now our policy is we don't have a problem with two people on the same board. So if we want to implement that in the future, then that's a separate discussion.
Well, I think the best way to do that is to recruit people. I mean, we're always asking for people to be on the boards. I'll entertain.
And if council finds that you want separation, I would be happy to resign and do P and Z in the way you do.
No, it's too late.
Yeah, and I think that's not a policy that's in place right now. It could be up for discussion in the future, but I think the best way to accomplish this is to just ask people to volunteer. If you know of people that want to do this, ask them to get on the boards. I think it's great. We've gone through stages where we've got a ton of people on them, and we've gone through stages where we were having a hard time getting a quorum. So I appreciate the fact that anybody's stepping up to fill any of them. At one point, I was on 3 boards, and it's because we didn't have enough people to step up for them. So, okay. So we don't, so we have an action on this one to reappoint Priscilla? That's the only thing up for motion, right? Okay, do I have a motion?
Simultaneous motions.
All right, so
Or in harmony, I'm
Councilman
sorry.
Carey made a motion, Councilwoman Martinez with a second. Any further discussion?
What is the motion, please?
To reappoint.
Appoint Priscilla to position number 1 on the
On the planning and zoning, that's the one that's open.
You got that? Okay. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Great, thanks.
Can't get rid of you.
All right. Next item is consider and take appropriate action on amendments to the utility policy
Well-
for delay of payment.
Sorry, there was one more if you're in.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So sorry. Well, no, for Cindy and Dan Maloney, if y'all are in favor of those two switching to the alternate positions.
Does that also involve moving the alternates to the full positions?
It would be.
I would move to accomplish that.
Okay. So that's,
Hang on.
Cindy Maloney and Dan Maloney moving from,
HLC.
no, on the,
Position 1 and position, excuse me, position 7 of the HLC, that's their full board.
and then Rhonda and Tracy moving into those full seats.
Related to that, you've talked to Rhonda because hers is up now and she's agreeable to go into the full seat?
Well, none of these are up yet until October. So if you're moving them up, we would just move it into
Is this when she
coincide
was,
with the years.
so February 24 is when she was appointed, that's not when it's?
Correct.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Time out. Let me find. You submit your application to me. Either one.
it's online. And you can talk to Deborah coordinates all of that stuff.
Yes.
It is online on the website. For the boards and commissions, it shows who's on the regular board positions, who's on the alternate positions, when their terms are up. It's got all that information on there. It also talks about when the board meetings are, where they are. But, yep, yep.
Well, if there is a current vacancy, yes. Otherwise, all the boards and commissions, with the exception of HLC, is over in June. She's talking to somebody else, so I'm going on. But they're all up in June, except the HLC. And the HLC is different. Their terms, the ones that are up for appointments, or their terms are up, is in October. So, yes, yes.
Again, if you'll coordinate with Deborah afterward, she does all of the coordination for all of this.
Can I ask a question of clarification?
Yes, please.
Have the two alternates on the HLC, have they submitted a request to go
No,
and become primary members?
no.
They have?
No.
Oh, they
What,
have not.
what I was gonna say is at the HLC
So
board
we have to
meeting,
get that resolved first before we can move
well,
Marshman's to the alternate positions. We
The-
gotta free up the alternate positions.
the recent HLC meeting, I believe they discussed though Maloney's moving to the alternate positions. And so I don't have the minutes, or I don't know, I'm assuming that they asked the alternates if they wish to move up. Because it was discussed at the recent meeting. Okay, thank you. Okay.
But they both told you, yes, they would.
Yeah, I think that's not a bad idea, just to go ahead and ensure that something that they are willing to do. So, yeah, so we'll wrap this up. If Deborah, you can just work with them and get that application, is council okay with doing a vote on that
Yes,
in the
next
next
time.
meeting?
We withdraw the motion.
Yep.
Okay, motion is withdrawn. All right. Next item is, we're done with that one, right? Okay. Next item is consider and take appropriate action on amendments to the utility policy for delay of payment date for individuals over the age of 60. For this, we have Scott. Do you have a presentation on this, Scott?
I do not have a presentation. The short of it is, this was brought forward, I think there was a comment made, actually, I know there was a comment made by Bruce Alexander, where he cited a portion, I think, of the rules or regulations from the Public Utility Commission. During that meeting, our attorney indicated that she didn't believe that applied to us, but she was going to research it. She was able to confirm subsequent to the meeting that section does not apply to us. So there is no requirement by the city to offer this, but there's also nothing that stops us from doing it. To that end, staff has prepared a policy change that would implement the necessary changes to the policy to allow there to be create a registration process, allow for people to request an extension of the deadline, et cetera. And we believe this is in keeping with what we understood to be the council's wishes during that discussion, but that's for you to decide tonight.
Mr. Mayor?
Sorry, yes, you had a question?
I was gonna also include, there are those who are on fixed income due to disability. I don't know if we want to open that up as well as age. Because we have citizens who are on disability.
And same thing for from Social Security.
Right, their checks
Exceed
come
that dates, yeah.
Councilman King?
I thought this had to do with Social Security, but does Social Security kick in at 60 or 60?
62 sometimes.
Sometimes
I thought
after.
this had to do with Social Security payments, and that was the whole reason for this consideration, but where did we come back up on the 60 age?
It's in here.
I believe 60 is based on what the PUC, that PUC rule. So this is verbatim, I think it's mostly verbatim what the East Medina has put in their verbiage in their policy. And that 60 is based on PUC. Again, we're not subject to it. We don't have to do it, but that's where that's coming from.
I understand.
Yep.
So I think that what we had talked about before, and I appreciate you grabbing something that was kind of templated, but I think what we had talked about before was people demonstrating that they are on Social Security and making that request based on the timing on that. I think that's what we had talked about. Instead of a proof of age, it's a proof of fixed income Social Security.
Social Security till you're 62 and a half.
Unless you're
And
disabled.
Unless you're disabled.
Depending on your letter of your last name, you could get your payment on the 4th Wednesday of the month. And those are the people that are asking us for relief.
So.
I don't think we should be granting relief to people who are not on Social Security. That's my concern. The way this is written, it looks kind of iffy, like,
So I think that, and that was my point, is that I don't think it's an age-based thing. I think it is a demonstration of need based on the social security, the date of the social security check. And that would be, we just have to define what that proof of need is. Instead of, because what it says on here is basically, on written request, and just take by an individual over 60 years of age, change individuals over 60 years of age to people with demonstrated, what?
So according to the Social Security website, it is issued to people with a disability, blindness, or are age 65 and older.
So I think it is demonstration of Social Security.
And they have to be it has the, I mean, y'all want to have some kind of requirement that the utility be in their name?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So it has to be in their name. Yeah.
So that is like.
That's already written here.
Yeah, if you replace everywhere where it says
Making sure we get.
residential individual over 60 years of age, replace everything that says individual over 60 years of age with demonstrated Social Security recipient.
And do we want to make it those recipients in the 4th week of the month? Because that's really where the concern.
Are there only 2 dates that they give that out on? 3 dates.
I don't think we need to cast the net that narrowly.
Okay, all right.
Just-
that's fine.
There are people
Demonstrate-
who retire
Fair enough.
before 62 on pensions that might also have similar restrictions.
Well, I guess here though, it
But
had
so
to
you're
do,
saying, go ahead.
yeah, here it had to do with the people who are getting, the request came because of that 4th week on Social Security. So if pension benefits come at the beginning of the month,
First of the month, okay.
it's not an issue. But but I like the way you said, because this was a specific request related to Social Security benefits, if you just relate it to those Social Security benefits, if it's blindness or.
Not
whatever
age,
else,
just
it
Social
kicks
Security.
in.
Got it.
Right.
The question is, I think what Councilman Mers is asking is, do you want to broaden that to other people on other types of fixed income? And
I think that it's an easy enough lift. Now that we've got the construct in, if we find out that there's a need in other areas, I think that you can't identify, we'll have analysis paralysis if we try and identify everybody that might have some sort of need. This is something that was come up, that we have the constructs for. I think it's prudent for us to implement it for this, and if there's another need that we see is demonstrated, then we'll take a look at those on individual basis for potential inclusion on this.
Can we give staff the ability to address these on a case-by-case basis?
Man, that puts pressure on them.
It does.
I think it's more of a policy thing, like when is this needed? Demonstrated need on Social Security, I think is one thing, and beyond that, it should come back to Council for Policy. I don't want to have them, I mean, these one-off things that they have to do, it takes up so much time and it pulls them away from other things. I think we set it as a policy and say, this is what we accept, and be willing to modify that if we find that there's additional needs.
So according to the Social Security website, if your birthday falls on any day from the 1st to the 10th of the month, you'll get your payment on the 2nd Wednesday of the month. If your birthday falls on any day from the 11th to the 20th, you'll get your payment on the 3rd Wednesday of the month. And then if your birthday falls after the 20th, you'll get your payment on the 4th Wednesday of the month.
and the only thing we've discussed in previous meeting is Social Security recipients
Correct.
who receive their payments
Correct.
on the 4th Wednesday of the month. And that's the only people that we have discussed previously.
Correct. 'Cause
So
they were getting
are we
late
saying
payment.
we're limiting it to that?
You gotta remember, not everybody's gonna take advantage of this. You're not gonna have 6,000 people
Yeah.
who want an extra 3 days.
Understood. So I'm going to ask, please, there's plenty of time before and after the meetings. This is a city council meeting. Okay. Call us before and after. This is a city council meeting, and I would ask you to respect that. Just as you had to reel that in the other meeting that you ran, we also need to do that.
So can I clarify, just based on what I'm hearing y'all say? So looking at the recommended motion, which was to make a motion to adopt the revision of utility policy section 15 Part B, and then it laid out what it states, you would adopt this in whole as it's been presented with the following changes: that the delay of payment for individuals receiving Social Security benefits, and then under 1, on written request by an individual who's receiving Social Security benefits, an individual may request to implement the delay for the most recent utility bill, blah, blah, blah. And then under 2, this applies only to individuals who are receiving Social Security benefits. And then the next sections would stay the same. And under B, where it says applicant must provide reasonable proof, it'd be reasonable proof of receipt of Social Security benefits. So it basically is taking all of the age requirements out, and it's clarifying that this would be based on Social Security benefit receipt.
Yeah, the only, absolutely, but under section 2B, applicant must provide reasonable proof of age, so change that to must provide.
That's what I just said.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, proof of Social Security receipt status or recipient status.
And I guess what Herb was saying, and I agree with him, this request came because of specific, the people who receive, who birthdays are after the 21st. I realize that we're kind of being nitpicky, but that's really why the request came. It had to do with that last payment of Social Security.
The fact of the matter is that if you're getting it on the third Wednesday, that could actually be the 22nd, and that may be too short a time.
I think that
The fourth Wednesday is where they're getting it,
Right,
because
right.
that's on the 25th or later.
Right, but.
And that's
but
why they're getting hammered with the late fees.
There's also a very short time frame to get the check to the bank processed and have the funds to make.
It's
the payment
direct
by the
deposit.
25th.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think that the number of people that are going to take advantage of this are small enough that if you have some people that are receiving it on the 1st, it's not that big of a deal.
I think Bruce said for all of his customers, they have 6, something like that.
Yeah.
And it's very small.
Councilman Mercer?
That's fine. I don't have an issue.
We have 1,000 residential hookups in the city-ish. I think that number's really small enough, and it's because the late fees can still be assessed if they go essentially to the next month. We're looking at maybe $40 lost if someone's taking advantage of this to always turn in their bills exactly 1 month late.
Yep.
I really don't think we need to be trying to bracket it in so precisely. I'd actually be tempted to say, instead of replacing the age requirement, to say over 60 years of age or demonstrated Social Security recipient, to catch the people on disability as well. So instead of replacing it with Social Security requirement, which would block people with other sorts of fixed incomes, to just say either or. It's going to be such a small number of people anyway, and most people aren't as persistent as Ms. Fifield to come and badger us for 4 months until we finally get it on the agenda.
Councilman King?
Scott, how big, I can see 6 people. Bruce says he has 6 people, and those you know which ones to tag, but is our computer system sophisticated enough to be able to differentiate between those that fall into this and this, or is it just be somebody has to remember these each month?
No, so there's a suffice it to say, we have the ability to implement this without major issue. We can, there are settings that we can do on an individual account basis. So the idea is, if you came to me and made this application, then there are toggles that we can toggle on and off within the system that would make it so that you aren't receiving late fees and that sort of thing. So we have the ability to control that. So I think that was one of my first concerns, is how difficult is it going to be to implement. And I don't think I think staff is comfortable implementing it, so that's not an issue.
I want to bring up the issue of disability again, because there are 40-year-olds who are on disability. And depending on when, if they receive their check in the same schedule as a Social Security recipient, then they will also be in that situation. Not that we're going to have a lot of those, but.
But that is still under Social Security, right?
It's SSI.
Yeah, if it's federal, yes.
See, I guess I don't, to me, I think we need to be fair to everybody. But again, for a need like social security or disability, and that's all covered up in social security, but just because someone turns 60, I don't know if that all of a sudden hits a need that we need to open it up to people who are just 60 years old.
I think Councilman Murs' comment is that we don't always know the financial situations of people and whether or not, I don't want to speak for you, but that was kind of your point was.
They're 59 and a half is the normal, like, private minimum retirement age, and people retire with different kinds of fixed incomes, not just Social Security.
So I think that what we're saying, we have two options right now that are on the table. One is doing Social Security only, and the other one is doing Social Security and over the age of 60, which is pretty minimal in the language. Is anybody opposed to doing both?
I think we can initiate this and see how it rolls.
And adjust from there.
Both are, is the 60, I mean, if you do one or the other, you might as well just do 60 or no. And then
Yeah, that's what I said, is both, yeah. So instead of replacing it, you're adding
I understand.
Social Security?
Yes.
So is that a motion?
I motion to adopt the revision of the utility policy as written with the amendment to add Social Security as an optional qualification.
Great. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All right. I just want to make a comment. So Ms. Feifel did not have to badger us. We took time to understand what it is. Now that we've got the policy in place, making slight modifications, creating a new policy has so many cascading impacts that we have to be very careful about that. But once we get it in place, making modifications to it is much easier. So I would.
I need some clarification.
Please.
We've changed the wording. I don't know what we're voting on.
Okay.
Could somebody please read or say what we're voting on?
So under B, it would say delay of payment for individuals over 60 years of age or demonstrating the Social Security recipient, and then the rest of that. And then on 2, this applies only to, and it would be individuals over 60 years of age or older, or recipients of Social Security. Under 2B, applicant must provide reasonable proof of age or Social Security
Recipient
status.
Yeah. So it's just adding that Social Security recipient to the
Why do we
one
need
of the
the
qualifiers.
age? Why is it necessary for us to put ages in here? Either the Social Security Administration is paying somebody or they're not. Our concern is if they're getting paid Social Security and they're not getting it until the 4th Wednesday, then why don't we just say that?
Well, that was what
A
Councilman.
Social Security recipient?
That's what we've been talking about. So I have a motion and a second. I think that, if you have anything else to say on that, let's do that. And let's bring it to a vote. And if others agree with you, then,
For clarification.
or do you want to modify?
For clarification, I intended it to be an either or, on Social Security or 60 years of age. Is that what we are voting on?
Yes.
Yes.
That's what I wanted to be sure of.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes. It's good discussion, Herb. So thank you. Okay, next item, where are we? Discussion and appropriate action on setting a date, time, and place for the public hearings for the proposed tax rate for FY 2025.
So for this item, you've got an agenda summary form. We don't know what the rollback rates will be yet or the effective rate. We'll get those final tallies on or after July 25th. That's when they're supposed to be due to us. July 25th is when we get our final certified tax values. And then pretty soon thereafter, we have the tax assessor collector calculate the effective rate and rollback
So
rate
July
for us.
25th?
July 25th, that's the date. So it'll be the first meeting in August when we'll actually be able to set those rates. You have a calendar that goes along with this item, but just to be clear on the rate that's being proposed, when I first kind of proposed our financial plan for the city, the ultimate goal was to create greater debt capacity so that as we add value to the books, as it were, to the overall value of the city, that you would have the ability to issue additional debt in the future to address some of the unmet needs. And those are pretty glaring for most people, but just to enumerate them specifically, because this is general fund, not utility fund. So it's really streets and parks and facilities where you can use your property tax. You could you could issue debt for those purposes and put strategies together to improve on those areas, mostly quality of life type impacts. So we've been doing that. Of course, there was a housing slowdown that really kind of affected how quickly this plan was going to be rolled out. When I was hired, we thought we were going to have just literally a mountain of houses being built very quickly. Now, Alsatian Oaks, if you haven't driven by recently and really paid attention, there's a lot of houses on the ground. There's an impressive number of rooftops just over the last 3 months, how quickly they're going up. But the goal was to basically maintain the rate at the rate. So we know that property values will do what they're going to do. We have no control over that, but generally they've been ticking upwards. That may not always be the case, but we've set the plan to maintain the rate at 0.5233. So that's been your rate for the last 3 years. And what staff is recommending is that we keep that rate for at least the next couple of years until you see an increase of 20% or more in your overall value. And then we can start to look at, okay, is there an opportunity to change that rate, up or down, but ideally down, right? And I think that opportunity will present itself, but it's probably a couple more years out, just looking at the pace of construction, what Flat Creek has told us their schedule is, that sort of thing.
And if I can just clarify one point on there, this is one of the biggest reasons to leave that rate where it is because then we will capture from the new construction that's going on, they'll start to add to the collective. And that's part of what we've been trying to do, is making sure that they're paying for themselves and adding to the collective, so we would be able to leverage that additional value from those specifically to do the quality of life things inside of town.
Yeah, and to clarify, the reason that's important is through your development agreements, you agree to give a portion of the property tax rates back, or property tax collections back to those builders. However, the INS portion is 100% yours. You don't give any of that back because it's used to pay down debt. So that INS portion, if you want to think about it, is 100% protected on all the new value that comes in. One of the things that we've been doing, and I'll get into this when we talk about the utility budget, which is it's in a couple of items. But one of the things we've been doing is when we issue utility debt, most of the debt we've issued is backstopped by the city's property tax. And so it's primarily paid for by rates. The rates pay for the debt. But what that allows us to do in situations like this, where we want to, in a very real way, affect the overall rate and keep that rate flat, it allows us to push some of that and increase the INS. We will push some of that rate into the INS portion by absorbing some of the debt that had already been issued. So we're not going out and borrowing more money either on the general fund or the utility fund. We're using existing debt that's already been issued to maintain that rate. What that means is, from a property taxpayer standpoint, and just looking at budget, is that in a very real dollars and cents perspective, the amount of money that we've received for operations and maintenance has gone down steadily over the last 3 years and will continue to go down. So even though ratepayers are paying more, they're actually helping pay down our debt, and they're setting us up for, as we get new customers paying that debt service rate, again, that'll create greater ability to issue debt in the future. So it's a little complex, I understand, but the basis is we want to maintain the rate at 0.5233, and I'll give you what those rollback and effect rates are, and then I'll also be able to show you what is going to happen to the INS and O&M rates respectively. But the INS rate will go up And the O&M rate will go down, is what's gonna happen. I just don't know what the actual dollars and cents are just yet.
Okay, so we are looking at setting those public hearings on August 13th.
Yep.
City council meeting, and August 27th city council meeting.
I move we approve those dates.
Great.
I'll
I
second that.
have a motion by Councilman Dyer, second by Councilwoman Martinez. Sorry?
I'm sorry, when you set this, we need to, of course, set the date, the time, and the place at the same time.
Okay,
And-
sorry. The date is August 13th and August 27th at 5:30 PM at city council. What is, so just tell me what the motion
Well,
is.
I'm sorry, that's correct, but on the timing, if you would just state, during the council meeting, beginning at 5:30.
Okay.
That way we're not set this public hearing at 5:30.
It's gonna be closed, but that way, yes.
At the city council meeting that begins at 5:30.
Yes, sir.
All right. Will you modify your motion to
Yes,
accommodate that?
so moved.
Great.
So move the second.
And she approves as a second. All right, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
You know, if you get this right the first time, there wouldn't be all this.
Well, if Deborah would give it to me, right? All right.
So here we're gonna talk about the next item. Go ahead, sorry.
Discussion and appropriate action on setting a date, time, and place for the public hearings for the proposed FY 2025 annual operating budget.
And we'll do the same thing here. The only thing I'm gonna mention is, if you look at the calendars that were provided, the September calendar, you'll see that on September 24th, we have the adoption of the comprehensive fee schedule and adoption of miscellaneous policies. In the past, last year, it's my recollection that Councilman Dyer requested that we move that forward to be the same date, the fee schedules portion specifically, to be the same date as the adoption of the budget. Because to his point, if those fees support the budget, and we've already adopted the budget, then it kind of makes the adoption of the fees moot. And I understand that and agree with that. So, just FYI, if y'all concur with that, then we would move this comprehensive fee schedule to the 10th of September to be adopted along with the tax rate and the budget.
So all you need is consensus on that. You don't need a motion to approve the moving of the fee schedule.
No, yeah, I'm just looking for, thank you for the clarification. I'm just looking for consensus if you want to move the fee schedule. It's not actually part of this item, but you want to move the fee schedule up to the 10th.
Do we have consensus on that?
Yes.
Yeah, all right.
And then this will be similar to the last item, the setting of the dates and times,
So
just like you did.
do I,
Move we set the date for public hearings on the proposed 2025 annual operating budget. The first public hearing would be on August the 27th at 5:30 PM during the city council meeting.
Well,
during the city council meeting that starts at 5:30?
beginning,
Did I say 5:30?
Yeah,
Put it at
but,
the beginning before
the beginning.
yeah, so during the council meeting that begins at 5:30.
Okay, yeah. During the council meeting that begins at 5:30.
Perfect.
And the second public hearing date would be September the 10th, during the city council meeting that begins at 5:30.
Perfect. Motion? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Great. Further discussion? All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
For clarification, both the budget hearing and the tax hearings will be held here. We said council meeting. Council meetings are always posted. We don't plan on moving them. They'll be here at 12009 Fiorella Street in the council chambers.
Thank you.
Can we take a 5-minute recess?
Yep, we'll take a 5-minute recess at 7:28.
Gonna have to run Darren through the next ones.
The microphones really pick up the candy wrappers.
It does. They're amplified.
So I want to tell you what's going on with this thing, this setup. I think we're using a video capture card or device. It's an external device. And today was really the first opportunity I had, unless I came in on July 4th weekend, but I didn't do that, we have family in town. So today was the first day I had to test it all out. And it looks like it's pulling all the audio through the camera, through the HDMI on the camera, rather than through our mics. So the audio is not gonna be great, but I wanna listen back to it and see what level we get. But we've gotta figure out why it's not recognizing the jack. And that's what I was trying to do before the meeting started, I was working with IT to figure out why isn't this jack, been working on it since 2:30 this afternoon, trying to figure out why the jack isn't being recognized. But either way, that's the latest and greatest development. We're still, the big point of failure, or possible point of failure is internet. If we don't have internet to this building, we obviously can't stream.
Sorry,
But as long as we have internet, we have kind of eliminated almost every other choke point to make sure that we can stream these things. And right now, we are streaming to YouTube. It says, I'm gonna check Facebook, it says we're streaming to Facebook, but we have one person report that they didn't see it. But the reports I have so far from Laura at the Hondo Anvil, she said that she can hear everything, she can see everything, she's happy. And if it's any indication, I have not gotten a text from Helen, which usually tells me everything's great. Because she will definitely let me know if it's not working.
Joe, when Deborah first got it on, she asked me to ask the hubby, so I asked Joe, and he said there's a slight delay.
Yeah, there should be a 30-second delay.
Yeah, because he's like way high.
And Facebook may have a whole different code thing.
Yeah, he was on YouTube.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I have no viewers on Facebook, because it tells me, YouTube does not show me that, but I'm assuming that it's not being able to be picked up, and we'll have to find out why.
Cool.
So,
This thing just won't. It's just hanging over there in western Montgomery County, this wall.
Should we go out and do a rain dance?
Bandera got rain earlier, my husband said, thank you, because we have not.
it's raining on my house.
Is there an Alsatian rain dance?
Yeah. Yeah, there is, you know. what
There
it
might
is,
be a
you know
leap
what
out
it's
of
called?
that.
Hoi hoi.
Might bring hell if y'all get out
I
there
mean,
and dance.
that's what hoi hoi means, rain, rain.
That's how,
The
I don't
Alsatian
know why
rain
we can't
dance.
get one of those yellow, red ones, all we can get is the little light green ones.
Oh, this piece of shit.
Oh, that's live.
Yeah, I'm talking about that green that
Microphone's
just,
still on, by the way.
I knew it. Citizens, I'm
We are,
upset. It
we are
makes
still
sense.
live.
They were all saying it also. They agree with me. See, I can hear them.
Oh,
They were sticking their heads out the window and repeating that.
I think that everybody voted to have all of the rain fall in Bandera and then just come down this way.
I'm telling you, we have been so unblessed.
Yeah, but unfortunately.
So hopefully it
too.
will, and do the recharge, you know,
I was
for
part
the
of the
Edwards.
hurricane,
But you, me too.
and then it did that.
And it took a hard right.
Right,
went to
and it's
Houston.
like, man.
Their son lives in Houston. They lost power.
Well, my son-in-law works for a company that's out of Houston, and they lost power. He had all day off.
Well, Sunday when we started, there was already bucket trucks sitting
Yep,
and waiting.
Scott's not.
But they were shut down, so he said, I'm gonna take the kids to go to the park.
They had bucket trucks sitting in Houston Sunday, waiting, because they knew it was coming, so hopefully they'll get them back on eventually.
They showed a,
The advantage of working from home in a different environment.
they showed a gator, and a few gators that different areas around Houston, like, yep.
Alligators or,
Alligators.
Kawasaki Hook?
No.
That'd be dinner.
You know,
No, alligators.
That'd be dinner.
That'd be dinner.
I like it.
I like alligator.
I do too.
Okay. All right, we're going to reconvene at 7:33. Next item is discussion and appropriate action on amendments to the employee personnel policies. This is section 18.02 nepotism, and then section 21.03 grievance appeals procedure, step F, and then future policy changes. For this, we have Scott.
Okay, so we have a couple different items. The one that, the nepotism item that was spoken to during citizen comment, I mentioned this at our last meeting. It wasn't, I was advised that day that basically I was in violation of our personnel policy, and I let y'all know that night. It wasn't on the agenda for us to do anything about, so that's why it's on the agenda tonight. But it boils down to this. I hired my oldest daughter, who's home from college, to work at the library as a seasonal part-time employee, along with 3 others that were hired at the same time. All of them are kind of similar age, similar backgrounds, et cetera, doing part-time work for our library. I did not know at the time that there's a complete, if any relative of mine cannot work in any position at the city, this is the only city I've worked for that has had a nepotism policy that was that strict. And so I was kind of surprised that that's the case. It's completely up to you all if you want to, leave it that way or not. But the request that I'm making is, as far as the change to nepotism, is to allow for relatives of mine to be part-time seasonal employees, as my daughter is serving now. I do understand the basis if, for instance, not that this is likely in my instance, but just thinking about other, if some other city administrator came along and they had their wife wanted to work for the city in some capacity in a full-time position, there would be great pressure put upon that department head to hire that person potentially, right? Or feel, even if the administrator says, no, hire the best candidate. She's applying, you don't have to hire her, or whatever the spouse is. So I understand why it's there, but from my perspective, this is very biased. I think that seasonal part-time employees are just that. They're seasonal part-time, and it's not. This doesn't.
It's not a key
present
position with high
conflict of
pay.
interest. They don't report to me. It's not an issue. But
Herbetta, question, comment?
Is it normal in the library? I mean, we have a library manager. Does the library manager hire and fire people, or does the city administrator hire and fire people in the library?
Great question. So yes, the library manager would hire part-time. Now, this occurred. I brought on 4 part-time employees after we let go our library director.
So it was an unusual situation. We didn't
Right.
have a librarian.
Right. I was looking for any warm. We needed.
So normally you wouldn't have
Yeah.
been involved.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
My point is, I feel similarly. I have a son who's a swimming coach and a lifeguard. I would hate to think that he couldn't get a job at our pool simply because I'm an elected member of the city council. What I would suggest is that in order to satisfy the public that we are scrutinizing exceptions, I would propose that every exception should be brought to the city council, and the parties should be given an opportunity to explain and confirm that they are not involved in the hiring process nor in the firing process as the first line leader. I think there should be room for some exceptions.
But I want to clarify. Whatever decision you come to tonight, it's kind of no skin off my back. My daughter's gonna be just fine. This is extra income for her for the summer, but it's not a big deal. So I want to make that clear.
But this is, at a policy level, there's definitely room. You have to look out for, the whole idea of nepotism is to make sure that one family member cannot, it's just like harassment. You need to make sure that, one person doesn't have control over the life of another person. With the nepotism thing, every company has a nepotism policy, but typically, like, I know of husbands and wives that work at my company all over the place, sons and daughters and cousins
And we have those policies in place, just being clear. So we have family members that work for us
but
right now.
not in direct.
But
And his brother Jonah.
right, well, and
Kate works the pool and Jonah's over parks.
yeah, Joe and Ashley for years too. So it's not but the policy
But not in
specifically
direct-
calls out the city administrator
Right.
and the city council. Now, something that I'm not fully versed on, because this was my issue. I wasn't concerned about y'all and your relatives, frankly, because it was my relative that was in violation. But I did talk to our attorney just briefly before this meeting, and I don't know whether there's something, I think, Deborah, you mentioned it to me, that there might be something in state law that addresses elected officials and your relatives and whether or not they can work in a city. Again, in my experience, because I've worked in small towns in Texas, that's my entire career in local government. if there is such a policy, that the cities that I've been a part of have never followed it, because there were relatives of elected officials working in various capacities in the cities, but they were small towns, and it wasn't, there was no,
Not to.
yeah, it wasn't an issue, frankly, it wasn't someone taking advantage. Now, it does happen. I know of an instance in a town not far from here where something like that happened, where an elected official really wanted someone to get hired and took advantage of that position to get that person hired. But anyway, so it's not, I can understand why those types of rules, et cetera, are in place.
Yeah.
You
have no threat of my family.
So I want to clarify, I'm asking about my relatives specifically in the policy. If you want to look at council, how council members are treated as well in the policy, I need to find out, or we need to have some discussion. Right.
What's the rules?
So it is a state statute, and it does have to do with the hiring authority, hiring someone within. So you don't have the authority to hire someone, and you're not excluded, the way I understand the law, from you mentioned your son. So if you're not the one hiring or firing, if I understand correctly, you are responsible for hiring, which is why it is a conflict.
Well, I'm not, I did, that's the thing, so in this case, and it's my goof, my mistake, I was looking for warm bodies. I contacted the Hondo Library first to see if they had any part-time folks that could also work for us. They had two they recommended. One of them came, the other one wasn't available, but her sister came instead. And then we had a former volunteer that was available, and I needed one more, and I just asked my daughter, hey, could you work at the library this summer? And she said, sure. So that's how that happened. But normally I wouldn't be the person hiring and firing, and soon after that I was able to get an interim. My daughter now reports to the interim. She didn't report to me in any capacity. And when we hire the full-time person, which should be in the next 4 to 6 weeks, that person will make whatever hire or fire decisions they want to make. And but again, this is a policy level decision, so it's something for y'all to consider. It sounds like if you were to consider council positions, I would probably give the same advice from a policy standpoint, which is full-time positions that are relatives of ours probably should not be considered for full-time positions in the city for the same reasons. If your wife, Mayor, decided she let's just pretend she had her CPA, she wasn't in the medical field, she was in accounting, and we had accounting positions open.
Don't even say shoot.
Yeah.
No, don't.
Well, even though I know that you would never put that pressure on me, a person can feel undue pressure.
No, I'm saying there is no question that my wife will not come to work for this.
Right.
Hanging at the hardware store.
Right.
So I think that what Councilman Dyer said was that any exception, leaving the policy in place with an exception policy to come in front of council anytime that there is a situation of deficit.
Questionable nature, yeah.
Because I think that gets out into the public, and that way people can hear exactly who it is, what the situation is, as council is deliberating over it. The attorney can weigh in on it to ensure that we stay legal, and council has the determination across 5 members to make that determination, so that you're not having that sole responsibility on one person.
Well, let me ask this question about exceptions to the policy, because it sounds like that's what you're debating, and I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask anyway. So can the council make an exception to their own policy without having that exception written into the policy? So in other words, they have to have a subsection to this section saying, if there's any exception to this policy, we'll approve it by individual, blah, blah, blah.
Yes. Okay, while you're doing that, I've got a question, comment from Councilman Mercer.
Well, not a question. First, in response to bringing exceptions to city council, this is in particular trying to prevent conflicts of interest, real or apparent, by city council. Saying that we're going to bring exceptions where we might be perceived as conflicted, to us to resolve it, I don't think is really going to be a good look.
Well, if we don't all have the same relative that's coming in front, it would be one person that is bringing their relative to council, and then the rest of council would be the check and balance to make sure that they're not abusing that.
Well, y'all take an oath. When you go into office, you take an oath saying that you have not promised anything. I do know previously when I came to work here, it was said that the council, if someone went to work for the city, they had to be here at least 6 months before that person was put on the council. If it was after that, they were not allowed, they were not hired. And
What?
so,
Explain that, what do you mean?
if someone is kin to the council.
Oh.
Council. This was, I don't know if it was understood, but and it was maybe taken out, but it said if that employee was working for the city for at least 6 months before that council person was elected, they could stay on at the city. Otherwise, if they wasn't, they were to be relieved of their duties. Prime example, Chief McVeigh was in office in his position before Ms. McVeigh was put on the council before I came here. Otherwise, he would not have been able to go up for the chief's position if it was after the fact that she was brought in.
And that's a good point right there. I mean, it's if someone, you know, has been in their job, already set in stone and working, and their loved one gets elected or voluntold, hey, run for, represent this district, you know, I agree with that, that's.
And that was told to
Yeah,
me.
but if that still comes in front of council
Yeah.
and where you see
As
that
a heads
it could be a
up.
conflict of interest, I see it as a check and balance. And it really depends on what everybody else sees on this.
And they'd be able to tell us when they present it to us, what the leadership tier is and how far away in that governance, tier their loved one is. That way you can see it's no direct supervision.
I guess, could I just?
Please, sorry.
So, first of all, I think the policy as written is probably appropriate for an organization as small as the city of Castroville. You're never gonna have more than 1 or 2 people between you and your relative, no matter where they are in the org chart. And I've had situations at work where I've got someone on a project team and they're related to someone else further up the chain of command, and even if they never show up, even if they never exert pressure, even if they got everything straight and narrow, it's still a uncomfortable position to be in, and it doesn't look good. And so I think for an organization as small as us, the policy as currently written is appropriate. I think that if
Does that apply, do you think that applies to because my request is specifically for seasonal part-time employees.
Well, I think there's two questions. Let me,
I think it
Scott,
does.
Exist? Okay, that's why.
That's my opinion.
So I think that,
But-
if you don't mind, I'm just gonna walk through this with, so I think that what you're saying is it doesn't matter if it's seasonal or full-time. So we have to determine if the rest of council believe that it's okay for seasonal. I don't disagree with you for full-time. I think that the policy is solid because you're right. I mean, specifically with the ones that were called out, you could have that conflict.
Yeah, and I guess just to try and finish it up, one
Yep.
sentence here. And
Sorry.
I don't think that using council as the court of appeals for whether someone related to council should be hired is appropriate either.
I agree.
So that's my thoughts there.
Okay, so you're saying,
I was just gonna address something Mr. Martinez said. If an employee was previously here and an elected official comes in, then there's a grandfather provision, but not in this case for someone to be hired after.
of course, right.
That's the
Okay.
only exception I can find.
So the other, I guess the other point of clarification, so what you're saying is leave council and mayor out of this equation, but it is okay for the city administrator to bring something forward for seasonal part-time, or no?
Not according to
No, it sounded like you said.
No, I'm not saying according to the policy, I'm saying, what do you want the policy to read? Okay, wait, let me just make sure, are you done? Okay. I interrupted him enough times.
Whenever my turn is.
Go ahead,
I'm
yeah.
learning.
I'll try and shut up.
Scott, just for point of clarification, when employees are hired, your managers don't come to you and tell you, I wanna hire this person, is it okay? Or can they hire people on their own without, because I think from a legal definition, that's important.
Yes, most of the time, they just hire who they want to hire. Now, our police chief, when he's talking about officers and their pay and some other things, there's been many times he comes to me and says, hey, this is the candidate I'm looking at, this is who I'm thinking of hiring, and He just wants my opinion, and I'll
But like
yes or
for
no.
in the library, in the streets department, anything else?
This was a very unusual circumstance,
Well,
and,
no, no, I realize,
yeah.
I'm talking about the new, I mean, as a standard deal, let's say the new.
They hire their own
library manager,
employees.
She wants to hire somebody, it's in her budget, she doesn't even talk to you about it, she just hires.
Correct. So, and there's plenty of
And you don't
examples
sign
for the
off
last
on
3
that.
years,
Okay, so
correct.
that answers that question.
Yeah.
Herb, you brought up a very interesting thing. Again, my kids are not gonna be working at the pool, but as a city council person, if someone wanted to go and work at the pool part-time, they couldn't do it. And I don't know if that's really fair. I do like the idea that don't ask city council permission, but I think it would be just give notice to city council. Listen, my daughter is gonna be hired at the library. I mean, I'd have no problem. I realize the nepotism, but like when I was running a very large engineering office for a very large engineering corporation, one summer I hired my oldest son to do special projects for us, and he was under my direct supervision and everything. I never even thought about it. In our nepotism clause of this very large engineering company, I mean, they did like $9 billion a year in business, and that was okay. They just trusted the managers and everything else. So when this came up, I started thinking about my own experiences, but very pointed thought about you, Herb, when you said, you know, if city council people and someone wants to work at the pool, oh no, you can't go work at the pool because the parent is doing a civic duty by being a city council person. So I'd be open to that, and just so it's above board, and it just, you know, the city council has to be given notice of this, something like that. But I guess that's just my thoughts.
Okay. Councilman Carey?
I would be amenable to eliminating the temporary positions from that constraint for, seasonal jobs.
Okay. And is that with the stipulation, is that wholesale? Sorry. Microphone. Is that wholesale, or would that be with notice to council or permission from council?
Council needs to be notified.
Okay.
Is it council?
For part-time,
It would be
For
exactly the
seasonal?
paragraph that's written there, with the exception of removing the word "or temporary employees."
okay.
Or
Great.
allowing temporary employees, and because, there are all kinds of summer jobs, pool's just one of them, that the city may hire extra people to help mow in the summer. I mean, there's all kinds of things we would need to do, and quite frankly, we have a limited pool of resources. There just aren't that many people who wanna do those kind of jobs sometimes, so, I would be happy to do that.
Okay. Let me go on to Sheena first.
Well, point of clarification, you're talking about the paragraph on page 41 of the policy.
Yes, section 1802, second paragraph, ends with the words "or temporary employee of the city," and I would eliminate the temporary employees from that restriction.
Okay.
Because those are usually entry-level jobs, they're temporary jobs, they're hard to fill for a summer period of time. Lifeguards are one thing, employees at the park, employees on the streets, crews,
Library?
library, any one of those positions is going to be we will be in a position where we need more help from time to time. And it's a temporary situation, so it's not like they're gonna make a career of it, so.
Okay. All right.
And
Councilman
so, like,
Martinez?
Yeah, I agree, moving the temporary part-time, but, and as far as council being strict, when the department heads give their briefing, they can just plug in, oh, hey, we have this temporary hire, that way we know, and everybody else knows, cause they'll see the reports, that way they know there's all transparency, and give a heads up.
All right.
You don't have to come in front of us and justify, but just give us a heads up of, hey, so-and-so is now working here temporarily for the
And
summer.
that can come up through the change in the
Yeah.
administrator, so.
And that way it keeps us up involved, to make it part of their.
This is if it's if it's a relative of the city administrator or the city council.
Right.
Just removing the temporary part-time.
Right.
Okay. All right. At this point, I'd entertain a motion.
One clarification,
Yep.
just because Scott couldn't hire a temporary employee directly by state law, directly
Reporting to him.
reporting to you? Because you had mentioned that was a city administrator or council people, or is it just council?
Yeah, it says right here.
Let's ask the attorney, so
No, no,
specifically
it's state law.
for a temporary, part-time employee,
So, I apologize, so if you as the, if an employee is, if you as the council have the authority to oversee the hiring, then it applies to you. If you're part from the hiring process, then it does not apply to you, right? So
so state law only applies to elected officials. So for us, it would be the city
Who has-
secretary, the city administrator, or the police chief. Those are the only ones that we hire.
If the council acted as administrator.
Yeah, it doesn't affect, that state ruling doesn't affect city administrator.
We only get involved in hiring officers of the city,
Right.
period. That's it.
And we really don't get in the weeds of, like, we don't determine, city council doesn't determine who staff hires, aside from those three positions.
the language says the nepotism statutes apply to any public official who is the final hiring authority or is a member of the governing body that has the final hiring authority.
Okay.
So that final word is.
Public official is defined as elected officials? Or does that extend to police chiefs, city secretaries, and city?
Because we're public
An officer of the state or a district, county, municipality, precinct, school district, an officer or a member of the board of the state, municipality, or so forth, or a judge or court created.
Elected official.
An officer of the city.
An officer of the municipality.
Well, in the local government code, there is officers
Yes,
of the
A member of the
municipal.
board.
right. She's an officer of the city.
As you by ordinance and then
Yeah.
the chief.
Officer, Scott is an officer of the city, yeah.
So the statute.
Wait, let me make sure that that is correct from the attorney. So Scott is an official. He's a
By
Question
ordinance.
Final authority.
final authority.
He's by ordinance, yes, but he is.
That didn't answer my question.
City secretary, city administrator, I thought the chief of police
Well,
typically are officers of the city
I am
on
under the local
local,
government code.
based on local, either local government code or.
So I'm actually asking the attorney that.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
Can
sorry.
you clarify that?
Whoops.
I'm sorry.
The question, the wording in there, obviously, if we have the authority, then I can't put my sister
If you
into,
have final hiring authority, then
Right.
no, you do not.
from elected officials.
Correct. So any member of, an officer of the state, an officer of the municipality, or a member of the board of the municipality,
Elected or appointed officials.
doesn't distinguish between elected or appointed, just says a member of the board.
I'm trying to find out who the board is.
Council?
Maybe a commissioner's board is maybe what they're referring to.
Or board that has authority to hire. Final hiring authority.
Clear as mud.
Y'all have y'all have final.
There's no question that we can't put somebody in three positions. There's no question about that. Right. Okay, so I will still entertain a motion. Have we gotten to that point, or do we need more discussion?
I
think we
think,
can
based
have-
on what the attorney just told us, I have no problem with what you're suggesting, the motion, but I think it needs to say that Scott can only hire a seasonal person if that person doesn't directly, if he's not responsible for their hiring. Does that make sense? Because that's what the state statute says.
I'm not sure that is, but that is good policy either way. So,
Well,
Okay.
you know, what you're saying is.
I'm not suggesting
Any relative
anything.
of mine can be hired by the city for a seasonal employee, a temporary employee, as long as I'm not the one doing the hiring.
Right.
If Jonah needs people at the pool and he puts out the position,
Then it's no problem. Yeah, it's just to make what we're gonna vote on in conformance to state rule, because it's, you are an officer of the city. And therefore, as long as you're not the final hiring person, then yes, you can hire, your blood relative could work in a temporary position for the city.
got it.
Right, because a part-time position can be a permanent position, but a temporary position is not.
Correct.
Correct.
okay.
It could be
I'm-
contractual.
Councilman Merz had one more thing.
I was just gonna say, it sounds like we have sort of three separate questions. Should we make an exemption for part-time employees?
No.
should we,
In other words, allow part-time employees to be relatives.
Relatives. Yeah,
Temporary
I'm only addressing temporary employees, not part-time employees. Part-time
Temporary.
employees can be permanent jobs.
Fair enough, okay.
should we make, like,
Right.
That's why I was saying part-time seasonal,
Well,
because
just-
even full-time, anyway.
Yeah, even full-time temporary.
But temporary is good, that's a
Amy's
good.
still trying to ask this question.
yeah.
Go ahead.
It sounds like we have the three questions then. Sorry. It's the temporary employee, should we have a written exception for temporary employees? Should we have some sort of review process coming before council? And what do we do about Ms. Dixon? Right? Those are kind of, the three things we're discussing, and they're all tangled up.
I don't think that I should be involved in the process for myself. The only motion that I was prepared to make would be to strike the temporary employee from this, and it would not affect part-time employees. And, what was the third question?
Ms. Dixon.
Oh, at that point, there would not be a problem there.
Well,
there's
if
still-
it gets sticky, because I ended up, because I hired her,
Policy that was in
so,
place.
and I
And
really.
you'd have to fire her, and the library manager would have to rehire her,
Right.
if she determined. Yes.
Has Castroville adopted a city manager form of government?
No, we're general law.
Okay, so here's another
Hold on.
I'm sorry,
thing
we
here.
I thought y'all have adopted the council manager form of government.
it's not a city manager, we're a city administrator.
No, I know that, but what
There's
he's
no
asking is,
differentiation.
there's something called council manager form of government.
City manager form of government.
City
So
manager, it's not.
The clause that I'm reading here from TMCEC says, if a city has a city administrator, which you are, but has never adopted the city manager form of government, the city administrator will generally be able to hire his or her own close relatives. Since the city council usually exercises control over the hiring decision by city administrator. So assume that you have control over whom he hires.
Which they don't.
We don't.
I don't think. we
Yeah,
do. No, I
that's what I'm
think
saying.
we adopted the
I thought y'all had, we were operating under the council manager form of government.
think we
Yes, we are.
That's the way I have heard it referred to.
He does have the final hire.
Right, I hire and fire people.
Correct.
So then, yeah, that would be a violation of his minutes.
Right.
So are you saying in every case, because he is the city administrator, he has the final hiring authority?
No, what he's saying is if he has the final,
If he has a final.
Okay, if he has it.
But you have it for some, like, for some positions, correct?
we have it for
Officers of the city, we have it.
city secretary, city administrator, and the police chief.
But Scott's saying he doesn't have final hiring authority for all his employees, only
The directors.
One in question, he does have.
Right.
just because he was there temporarily.
Right,
So you would have to fire her, and that you'd have to go back through the hiring
which
process.
is fine, which is fine, that's fine.
And then she could still go back if the
Yeah.
change is made.
We probably won't, just to be honest,
Yep.
because we've got 8 part-times there right now, plus the library director, and I'll leave it up.
And we're not
to
talking
whoever we
about
need to
what
fill up.
may or may not happen. I
Yeah,
think it's
yeah.
just policy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I
So.
think
So is that-
So, yeah, I think that, I don't think we can fix that situation here.
I just
fine.
really don't want to stay here till midnight,
No,
so
okay. I
is that a
would- I
motion?
would- I
So
would-
Paul made a motion.
I'll bring the motion to modify that second paragraph at the word full-time to read full-time or part-time employee of the city.
I second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Can I make I've got one more thing to say.
Please.
I understand exactly what you just said, and I don't disagree with it, but it's gonna cause people to raise the question, what's the difference between a part-time employee and a temporary employee? And I, for one, cannot explain that.
It is the difference between part-time and temporary.
Temporary.
Part-time can be like a full, they can be here ongoing. Temporary is for a very specified, it's kind of like a contract.
Period of time.
You hire them for a very specific period of time.
Summer would be temporary, part-time would be 20 hours a week.
Forever.
Forever.
By definition, if you work less than 30 hours a week, then you are considered part-time. If you work more than 30 hours a week, you're considered full-time.
Well, you understand
So
that,
your
it's really
your
temporary.
intention, Paul, in the way you have the motion, is you don't want the current ordinance to apply to temporary employees.
No, I don't want it, I don't want the change to apply to temporary employees. I'm sorry, you're right.
Yes.
You said temporary, I heard part-time.
You're saying taking
Yes.
temporary out of there,
Temporary out.
leaving part-time in there?
Correct.
So any part-time permanent
Maybe we
position?
could just put the word "or" between full-time or part-time city employees, and then have a new sentence that says, this policy does not apply to temporary employees. That way, there would be no question.
I'm amenable to that amendment.
Okay, so what is the modified amendment,
So it would
modified
read
motion?
from the word full-time, it would read,
Which paragraph are we talking?
the second paragraph, the last.
Under
phrase,
18.02.
under
18.02, okay, thank you.
It would read full-time or part-time employees of the city, period. Temporary employees are not
This
included.
policy does not apply to temporary
This,
employees.
thank you very much.
Well, I think that he said just remove temporary from this.
Right, but then he added. a
Oh,
sentence,
but yeah.
This policy does not apply to temporary employees
Okay,
or seasonal employees. We can make it
Temporary or
either one.
seasonal employees.
Yeah, correct, so-
Well, y'all, you don't have to hyper-focus on getting it right tonight, because we'll bring it back,
Right.
Okay.
along with some other changes.
I like it,
Well,
Okay.
I'm gonna give you some policy changes.
Okay.
There's two other items on this item,
Oh, that's right.
and I won't keep you here till midnight.
perfect.
No.
Okay,
Alright,
So, we have a.
so do we want to, I have a motion and a second
You're amenable to.
I'm
with a
seconded?
modified
seconded,
motion.
I'm amenable.
Okay.
Okay, and you caught what the motion was? You want me to repeat it?
No, I've got it.
All right, great. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes. Next item is on the grievance appeals process and future policy changes.
So for this, there's a number of updates we need to make to our personnel policies, but one of them kind of came to light recently when we were seeking some of the attorney's advice on a particular matter. And this was an item, it's kind of funny, in my printed version, it's not there. And but on the online version it is, and in the online version, the dates for the revisions are the same. So it's got the same revision dates, but it's got a change to it. So someone didn't record the date of the last revision. I wasn't trying to throw you under the bus.
No, I can give history.
Yeah, but my understanding is that somewhere along the line, without getting into the gory details, there was a provision added where counsel became part of the appeal process if someone was separated from employment. And our attorney, when we were reviewing this together, suggested that that not be in there. And apparently it was added by a prior counsel for a very specific reason, kind of similar to what we just went through with my daughter. And they're recommending that needs to not be in there.
That was in 2018, and they inserted it then, so,
So you're the one who messed up?
no.
Oh.
I
No,
don't do the policy. I just know when
whoever
you did,
wrote
when they
this
voted on it.
they just didn't update the
It
amendment.
was the previous HR person that put
Oh.
it together, Miss Mary Jo, and council voted on it, December of 2020, or, I'm sorry, 2018. And it was inserted, and I guess some of them didn't
So
get
do you
that.
want to expand on why y'all are making that recommendation?
I do, but can you just, sorry. This is, I wanna make sure I'm on the right thing. This is 2103?
Yes, 2103, F.
Okay, yeah, I just wanna make sure I get the right stuff.
I thought it was
2103.
2102 is
No,
appeal.
No.
No,
It's grievance
2103.
appeals,
It's the grievance
procedures.
Oh.
And then
I don't have that in the packet.
letter
do I?
F.
You don't have enough because you got the printed copy.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Keep pointing to E, it's F.
I have it here,
That's what he was saying.
and they should have it in there,
Yeah, so you have it they have it in their binder.
yes, or on there.
Okay, so
Step F.
I know Clarissa worked on this versus the partner, and she put down some notes on here. So she said that it wasn't necessary. replacing F with the following. In the event the issue or discipline to be appealed or aggrieved under this policy involves actions by the city administrator, the city administrator shall serve as the department director for purposes of these procedures. In the event of a further appeal or grievance, the city administrator may appoint someone in his or her stead to hear the grievance or appeal as outlined in steps C through E. So that was Clarissa's suggestion to change it.
The problem with that, though, is that if he appoints somebody from staff, they all report to him, except for city secretary or chief of police. So it would have to be one of them.
And what you just read, it's already in the process. Is she suggesting that be taken out?
No, he's saying that that's what she's suggesting, we replaced all of this F.
But that's
So-
already there,
Correct.
verbatim.
A few moments ago, when we were discussing his position, we all seemed to be in agreement with the statement that he, as the city administrator, had final authority over every employee in the city except officers. We were in agreement with that. This argument seems to be the opposite of that. This whole step F contradicts that and
Right.
says, no, the city council can overrule. So, which is it? Does he have final authority? Or does the city council have the authority to go and overrule him?
I think based on what was happening in December of 2018, toward the end of
Yeah,
2018.
remember, we did this once.
I think it was because there was a disagreement between the mayor and the city administrator about hiring and firing decisions. So I think that what they're recommending is that we take out that first whole paragraph and leave the second one. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
I do want to go back. Cindy, I did text Cindy on this and clarify. She said that you have not had a city manager form of government. So I think that's what Ms. Howe was saying before. So under those ordinances, the city has the final approval on personal hires, not, so you're okay with that decision. So I just wanted to follow up on that.
All right.
So.
But if I'm not mistaken, on the city administrator, the council gave the authority to him in his, I want to say the job description and that type of thing.
I'm gonna double check my contract.
But I believe you do. But in this, I do remember Ms. Trevino, when I was talking to her about this right here, she said that one of the things that they did see was that this paragraph opens up the city council for any type of, possible lawsuit, because you're taking on the role of making a determination. And she said that was one of the reasons why they were looking at it too.
I thought she said the issue was it also exposed you to liability.
Correct.
Personal liability.
Correct, correct.
That would not be protected under the TML insurance.
Because you're taking on a different role.
Yeah. So that was the main reason. When we talked about it, she said, oh, why is this in here? I said, I don't know why it's in there. She said, well, I would have that removed because that's opening them up to liability, so.
Right.
Removing F, the whole paragraph F.
Correct.
Right?
Well, he said, remove the first paragraph, leave the second
The
paragraph.
second paragraph.
As a suggestion, can we bring this up in the future when we have better understanding of what's going on instead of someone just saying, I think this is what so-and-so meant and so forth? Wouldn't it make sense to talk about this in the future?
What's that?
Bring it back.
He's saying, let's
Yeah.
get the variables into constants.
Okay.
Bring that back.
Okay? All right.
I outlined some of the other policy changes. It's all in my notes that were in the item.
I like your vacation thing, but it says you're gonna bring that up in the future. and not maybe-
PTO, yeah. There's a number of, we had established an employee advocacy committee or advisory committee, and they talked about a lot of different things, but we never made any formal changes. And the other thing that I had to clarify with Deborah was, again, in my past experience, the city administrator, because they had hire and fire authority and policy making decisions, et cetera, for the organization, I made a bunch of changes just by memo. I would issue a memo to the city and say, hey, or to the personnel and say, this is the change that's happening. And then I would advise council that change was made. But I was informed by Deborah that, no. Here, council actually has to, because it was established by ordinance. I don't know
It's a
why.
Because y'all approve policies. And that came through,
But
the
was that
city
done by
attorney.
ordinance or not?
that was done by Cindy saying that was part of.
It's just the way it has to do. So anyway,
It has to do with
so,
Sorry.
so, whereas I'm used to just making the personnel policy changes, we have a number of them that I need to kind of set out, explain what we're doing and why we're doing it, and then you all will be the,
And the
folks that
city
to
manager's
actually
form of
change it.
government, I think.
When Bob Hancock was mayor, I remember someone showing me where this whole thing, telling what the city administrator duties were and how city council's relationship with the rest of the employees, and that was all by an ordinance. And
Well,
that
there
you
is
need to
one
dust
now,
that
I
one
think
off.
it was changed up a little bit, in the hiring process. And so, but yes, it's part of, y'all give him the authority.
Right.
It's laid out in my duties and
Might be
responsibilities.
good
so,
to,
yes, yes.
if you could share those with us again when you get them, those policies and that.
So are we tabling this then? for the
Yeah, he was
next-
saying that he was going to come back with subsequent items. and
Yeah,
we'll
the
talk about
nepotism item was acted on, the others
We'll
will
vote on it later.
Yeah.
be
We
tabled.
do have a motion on the table, right? Did it get seconded?
I thought you had voted on it.
Got
Yeah,
voted on?
y'all-
Yeah.
Okay,
For-
It was
for
4 to
the
1.
nepotism
Yeah.
on
that's right. Thank you.
They voted, right?
the
Yes, we
nepotism.
Yeah.
I remember now.
Yeah.
Because David said it.
All right, next item is presentation on proposed FY 24-25 budget.
Okay. And this is our final item, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yay. Okay.
It's not true.
Sorry, we're not going to keep you till midnight.
It's very disappointing.
We tried.
No, we didn't.
Oh, what?
No.
I'm saying he's very
I
disappointed.
like council meetings that end on the day that they began.
So at your places, you should each have a presentation? Or it should have been in your book binder?
Yep.
One of the two, right?
Both.
Both.
So hopefully you've had a chance to review this. There is nothing new or changed. I did make some notes. And I intend to run through this fairly quickly, depending on, it really depends on what questions you have. Or we could just go right to questions if you want, Mayor.
What has changed since, what has changed since the last?
Well, this is the first time you're seeing the utility fund budget, so what y'all looked at before in the prior meetings was general fund. We didn't look at enterprise
Enterprise, gotcha.
funds. I'm saying utility, but I have to remind myself it's enterprise funds because it includes the airport as well.
Well, let's walk through.
Okay. I'm waiting on this. There we go. Okay. We'll look at the adopted versus year-to-date. So our adopted budget versus how we're actually performing. And then we'll talk about the 2025 proposed budget for both utility funds and the airport fund. And then we'll talk about the dates that y'all, the hearings and stuff y'all just adopted. So this is our fund balance. One of the things, if you were to go back and look at prior presentations about the utility fund and its balances, you'll see that this is considerably higher. And that's because in talking with our auditor, how we were calculating our fund balance in a very real sense, we were being overly conservative by a considerable margin because we were including debt payments that had already been accounted for in our liabilities in the audit. And so it was like you're double dipping to the tune of several $1 million. And so that's, anyway, so this has been adjusted to reflect that. This is the amount of cash that you have on hand that's unassigned. And that's what the fund balance should reflect. It's the amount of cash you have on, cash and cash equivalents, that are on hand today that are not assigned to anything. Okay, and so your total fund balance, gosh, these numbers are hard for me to read on this level, but it's a little over $5 billion. And then that blue line represents the number of days on hand, and you're well into the upper 200s of days on hand, about 286, I think it says, is that right?
266.
268?
266, yeah.
266. Thank you.
You want to borrow my glasses?
I might.
Then just make them bold next time.
Yeah. Actually, I can read this just fine. This my computer can't read. So you have about 5.5 million in 266 days. Your
Wait, go back.
revenues?
Go
what's
back
that?
one slide. What's your question?
Here in last, since 21, basically, I guess our expenses have gone up, and that's why the amount of available cash.
Yeah,
The
well,
balance has stayed, but because I guess our expenses have gone up.
yeah, you'll see the actual decline in the orange section is where you did not add to fund balance, you used some amount of money, right? It went
Yeah.
down. But to your point, the blue line descended by more, and that's indicative of the increase in operation cost. Yep.
Gotcha.
And I have a slide that actually deals with just the historic operation costs for the last 4 years and compared to the proposed, so you'll see what that looks like.
I like that.
So this is your utility fund reserves. We do forecast utility fund sales, and you'll see for the year, we're doing okay. That I don't have a pointer, but that third column from the end on the right, that says over under. You can see we're down by 6% in the first month, and then up by 1, and then down by 2, then up by 3, and down by 6, and up by 8. And you'll see that March, April, and May were up by 8, 13, and 6. That was after the new rates went into effect. If you remember, I think your new rates went into effect like February 1st.
Yeah.
We kept having to delay when they were effective because we had to get the notices out, et cetera. And I would fully anticipate the remainder of the year, we're probably going to be up or at least flat. And so those last two columns show you what our revenues would be if we remained flat and what they'd be if they went down 2%. Again, I don't think that's likely. That if we were up by 6%, which is a lot more likely, we'll finish the year up about $270,000. Now that's good because the current budget that you adopted relies on the use of fund balance to balance the utility fund. We were going to use $985,000 of our fund balance to balance the utility fund last year, or in the year that we're in right now. If we finish the year to the good, 270,000, that's 270 less that you have to use from your fund balance. So there will be another slide a little bit later where I forecast what your fund balance looks like for the current year and the proposed 2025 year. So there's your revenues adopted and actual. Now revenues, because of the way we do our math from a budgetary standpoint, revenues include use of fund balance. So that's why that number is 8.6 million, because again, 985 of that was, actually it's a little bit higher than that, was use of fund balance. Or maybe it is not.
So next time on this, can you put that as a stacked?
I can, yeah, I thought about that, I looked at it.
And this is adopted for the year and actual year to date, right?
Yes.
So we're also missing that function of where would we expect to be based on the time of year. So this looks like,
yeah, and
this doesn't provide the right picture.
Understood. Well, that's why the previous slide I think is better. You're up $94,000 year to date.
Let's just make sure that we're carrying it forward to that.
I understand. Yeah, I looked at this. The percentage is wrong too because anyway, in my mind, your fund balance is always there. This slide should really not even have the fund balance in it. It should be showing where you are. It should just be a percentage of actual sales. But anyway, I understand. That's why I always like this slide a lot. Gives you
I like it the other way. It's a lot easier to digest something like that without all of the explanation, as long as it's giving the actual picture. And I think it does give the actual.
I'm a numbers guy. I agree. Yeah, you're right. Pictures are better, are easier.
Most people like pictures.
Pictures are easier. Okay. This is our expenditures by department, just adopted versus actual. So we'll go. You have your utility admin. Again, some of these departments have a debt service payment that is baked into their annual budget. And again, I'm going to show you a slide later where I scraped those out to give you an idea of what the actual operation costs are. But that's why you see in some instances, now in utility admin, there's no debt service payment. So they're only at 57%, that's good. You would expect to be at 75% So on an expenditure side, because expenditures are not necessarily as seasonal, you would expect to be, especially where admin is concerned, you'd expect to be about 75%. So they're very much like the general fund departments. We should be around 75% spent. If you're lower than that, you're doing good. And we are on a general fund basis, we're at like 66% overall spent. And in utility fund, you're much lower than that. Again, that's
So we should be right now about 66%, because there's 4 months left off of here. This only takes us up through May, so there's still June, July, August, and
Yeah,
September.
Depending on the utility.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if you.
Well, because these are according to fiscal year. Fiscal year starts in October, and on the numbers back in the back, they only took numbers up through the end of May, nothing for June, because we're just barely through.
On which
June.
numbers?
Go back to your
Yeah,
favorite
that was
chart.
revenues. Expenditures are, right?
Are these up through June?
Yeah, so on the revenue side, we get delayed payments. But on the expenditure side, we pay everything in real time.
Okay.
There's no delay.
So just to
So-
clarify, this is up through June for the expenditure?
Yes, I believe so. That's why when you said that, I was just sitting there thinking, I'm pretty sure he pulled through June.
Okay, if he
So
pulled
these
through
are-
June, well,
Yeah.
we kind of need to.
So I will just tell you, we're still really good for the year. And that's, the bottom line is, if not only is your revenues, your revenues are tracking, you're gonna receive 270,000, looks like in additional revenue. Your expenditure side right now, if we were to close the books today, you'd be to the good $200,000. So we'll see how we end up at the end of the year, but it's very possible that you're gonna be to the good several $100,000. We'll see how the rest of the year turns.
Which will then keep us from having to spend as much out of the fund balance.
Exactly. And that's gonna be important, because you're gonna see how much fund balance we have to use next year, if we don't do anything with rates, which I wouldn't recommend doing. All right, so we're on, that was utility and gas. Now, I wanna mention gas is, you can see the budgeted number is 730. That was based on, at the time we were building the budget, we were dealing with our discussions with CPS Gas.
Yeah.
And they had hit us with 150% increase on their costs. That's what that is, right? That's what that is. Now, for the budget going forward, I think I used the exact same number because we just don't know. And that was a pretty good number to use for operations expense if we have to go back out. I have a meeting tomorrow that will hopefully shed some light on that to a certain extent. There's sewer, so sewer and electric. Sewer has a pretty big debt service payment that's built into their budget, and they're at 40%. Electric has a debt service payment as well, but it's not nearly as big. Water and refuse. Water has a pretty good size debt service payment that it'll make. And then refuse, of course, we only look, refuse is a pass-through. We make a percentage on everything that we do, and it's, I think, 2%. So if the expense is higher, the revenue's gonna be higher. It's kind of like fuel sales at the airport. So this gives you an overall actual for 2023, your approved or adopted budget 2024. The year-to-date number isn't in here. Your proposed 2025, and then the percentage change. And what I want to call attention to, just overall, this includes, the other thing to know is this includes your debt service payments. So you have about $1.1 million in debt service that you'll pay next year. So that's why the next slide,
Hey, wait, going back one.
I pulled that out.
The $700,000 in the depreciation, that wasn't what you were talking about earlier, was it?
No.
But what's this depreciation?
No, what he's showing, so the comment there is, looking at the top line, the utility admin is
Yeah, I see
2.1.
that. Yeah.
And when you look at the other years, the 2024, we don't budget depreciation. We never put depreciation numbers in, but when we do our audit, so anytime you're looking at the 2023 numbers, the actuals, those are audited actuals. The audit will, because this is an enterprise fund, it'll make you realize your depreciation expense. So that's a depreciation expense that was billed to administration when the audit was conducted. Does
Yeah,
that
because what I did is I,
make sense?
again, subtracted that out, and all of a sudden, we're pretty close to.
Yeah, and that's why you made that note, because if you pull that amount out, your admin costs have stayed pretty consistent.
And how much did you say is the debt service total?
1.1 for the next year, for 2025. This year, it's just a little under $1 million. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. So I thought this would be helpful to you all, is to be able to give you a look of what the costs have been by fund and by utility for the operations. So pulling out the debt service. Now, I can't swear that all the capital expenditure was also pulled out. I had Leroy throw this together like yesterday, basically. But even if it's still, some of the capital is in there, it still gives you an idea, just looking from, utility to utility, where their expenditures, how they compare year over year. And you can see relatively, I think they've been relatively flat. In gas, there was a bigger expenditure in 21 and 22. I'm not entirely sure why, other than there probably more, there may have been some capital expenditure in those years through CPS. I'm really not sure why 21 and 22 were higher for gas, or if maybe it was a function of cost of gas at that point. I don't know. I haven't dug into the
Well, it's
numbers.
during COVID, so no telling.
Yeah, I just haven't dug into the numbers to figure out why that's different.
I think that's what the big freeze was.
Where I made my notes was in 24 and 25 to give you kind of what's changing and why. So looking at the 24 and 25 columns, you'll see like admin stays relatively flat, actually goes down 50 grand. Gas, relatively flat, it goes down a little bit.
Does that include the contract for maintenance?
Yes.
It does.
Yeah, so what I did is I plugged the same number in. You can see it's about $150,000 delta or $100,000 delta from 23 to 24. That's about the same, honestly, in 22 to 24, from 22 to 24. But it does, the short answer is yes, I do have that increased contract.
210 from 23 to 24.
Yeah, it was 716 and 20. Yeah, so gas stays relatively the same. Electric increases by, we'll call it 300,000, 330. So I asked some questions. Why is electric going up by 330? 175 of that. A big portion of that is your tree trimming. So we're budgeting tree trimming. That's not really a capital expense. You don't usually borrow money to do something that's, especially trees that grow. So that's an operations and maintenance cost, and that's going to be $100,000 or so of that 175. And then we have an increase in engineering and our attorney for the electric, for the CPS negotiations. That's what makes up that 175. And then their supplies increased by almost $100,000, and that's a direct indicator of what the market prices are doing on everything we buy when it comes to whether it's PVC pipe or, in this case with electric, it's transformers and meters and all that stuff. All those prices have gone up by double digits in percentage. So that's where 100,000 of that is. And then the only other kind of utility that has a significant increase, I think, would be the water department. They're going from 750 to roughly 850, so it's about 100,000. Personnel was 82 of that, and that's reflected in a new position in water, and it's a budgeted position that wasn't filled in prior years, and so it wasn't in last year. I guess we didn't. This is.
That wouldn't make sense then if it was.
Yeah, I'm saying,
budgeted.
yeah, because it should still be there. That's what I asked Leroy about it. He said, well, so it's got to be a new position. It has to be a new position. But it's a new position in water.
Well,
And
if you
then-
look at actual, gotcha, never mind, that was actually not budgeted.
Yeah.
Actual in 22, I guess we don't know what the budget was.
For water?
Actual in 22, yeah, it was 50,000 more than what we're, I'm sorry, that right column is bugging me. Proposed FY 2025, right?
Yeah, it says approved, I'm sorry, it should say proposed. Proposed 2025 is 846, approved 2024 was 750, so it's about $100,000 delta.
You're looking at 22, remember 22 is when Snowmageddon happened, or 21?
That was early 2021.
Okay.
Are we, are we talking about water now?
That would have
still?
been in fiscal year 21.
Yeah. Water was 500 grand. Yeah, we all had, when I came on board, your water department, as you remember, it only had like 2 positions that were, so your actual, and these are the actual numbers don't show you what was budgeted in those years, because we had budgeted unfilled positions. But they went unfilled for a very long time. We've only been operating with a full water crew for the last year or so.
You want generators?
We have bought generators
Those
for
are
the.
expenses.
Yeah, but I think we lumped those with the capital projects. That's what I was saying. I don't know if capital was scraped out of this.
Okay.
Or to what extent capital was included, but you're right. Some of the, if capital is in here, then there were some pretty big projects that have been done, especially in the last couple of years. But on the gas side, I'm not, like I said, the gas was high.
Good new water line.
The only other item in, so water, the majority of it was a personnel, was the addition of a water position, and then, under purchase services, purchase services increased by 20,000. And again, that's, I don't have the specific line items to reference, but all of this is in the Excel files that have been shared with you. I'm gonna make sure that you actually got, I'll make sure after tonight that you actually got the utility, spreadsheets. If you didn't, I'll send those separately. I just don't remember if that was in the original book I sent you or not. But there have been no changes to the proposed budget. The big thing I've been struggling with is balancing it, and that's, well, I'll talk about next. As far as transfers, there are 2 kind of big transfers that come out of the utility fund. One is for right-of-way maintenance. That's basically mowing, and that's what that costs. The 270, that's what we spend on mowing right-of-way, and we do it in-house with our own crews. One of the things that I'm going to explore is outsourcing that, just to see if we get a better deal, if we can get a lower cost. Yeah, I've done it. I've done it both ways in the cities I worked in. Sometimes you get a better deal, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you get a better deal for the first 2 years.
Is that right-of-way maintenance, or is that drainage maintenance?
This is right-of-way maintenance, but it may include some drainage ditch, but most of our mowing is in right-of-ways. It's I'm not gonna say we don't mow some of those ditches, we do, but, most of
That's mowing under power lines?
No, not under utility easements, right-of-way, so street edges, mostly Highway 90.
Highway 90, Constantinople, but also Flat Creek, you all mow.
471, we mow a good stretch of 471.
There's a map there that shows everything that they mow, and it's a lot.
Yeah, there's a what?
There's a map that Devin showed me, this issue came up one time, and he showed me a map that in fact, I thought it was with you, you don't remember all.
I may have, I don't remember.
Yeah.
We had looked at it before to see.
Yeah, I would have met with him without you, but it was,
Yeah.
he showed all the stuff that he was mowing.
All right, well, those are the transfers. This is your proposed revenues, and this is kind of the difficult slide. So before I updated revenue after I did this slide. So you're actually, your forecast is better than what this shows. I only accounted for the 200,000 that we were under in expenditures, assuming we bring those to the end of the year, because that's a safe assumption right now. You would need to increase this by 270. So that $710,000 forecast will drop to 470 or so, 460. So that's, you're a little less than $500,000 that you'll need to use out of your fund balance to balance the utility fund budget this year, which is great. That's half of what, again, we had budgeted to use can't see my cursor, I just realized that. That's half of what we had budgeted to use in FY '24. The bad news is, when we look at FY '25 and the proposed budget, again, there's no extraordinary expenditure increases. We have about 300,000 in electric. It's tree trimming and I mean, it's those three items that I mentioned. A big chunk of this, you have $1.1 million in debt service. So your proposed use of fund balance is right now at just under 1.5. And I think this may be adjusted downward. I'm going to continue to work on forecasting the revenues a little better. We don't have a very sophisticated revenue model, so I've challenged staff to help me develop a better revenue model that looks at, one, our new rates, because I was using collections, annualized collections. Well, annualized collections are not good for the first part of the year. We're up by 100,000, but there are down months of 6 and 8%. We're not going to see those for the rest of the year, so I need to adjust my forecast to account for that. And then we also need to adjust our forecast to account for the actual construction timelines that we're being given. And we have those numbers, but I don't have a model to plug those into. So I'm working with staff to identify what is our value from a utility standpoint on a household basis. So what is each house on average worth to us? And then how can I add that to my model to increase this? So I'm going to work on that a little bit, and that'll improve this number some, but at the end of the day, it's a lot of money that we're going to have to spend. And so I tried to kind of give you a new look at what that does to your fund balance. It's not world ending by any stretch. But we are getting to a point where we either need to see some growth, or we're going to have to make another rate increase. And that is that is the very last thing I want to do.
But we knew we were going to take a hit for a couple of years.
Yeah.
We can't
Because
take
of
this
the
hit
debt
for
service.
another.
Yeah, but I'm gonna try to build. That's another reason why I need to build that model.
Yeah.
To really, from a revenue standpoint, to really get at, well, where do we stand? Because the model, I think, that we were presented when we issued that debt, unfortunately, it's just broken. It's wrong. Because it's not at all been our experience, and obviously the housing market just isn't what we thought it was going to be. But we now, I think, the new reality we're living in, I think, is pretty indicative of the future reality. Does that make sense? Like, I think the numbers we're getting, I'm not expecting housing to just jump up. Like, I think what they're forecasting is, although it's somewhat conservative, is realistic from these builders. And so I have those forecasts for the next 6 years. So I want to be able to put those forecasts into this model. Then I can show you, okay, well, then that's how that is going to impact your fund balance. But right now, we're, again, at the end, worst case scenario, if we spend every dime of what I said we were going to spend, and that doesn't account for the 270 extra that I think we're going to have, so these other things, worst case scenario, we would be at 153 days, which is still 43 days more than what you really need to have on hand. You should have 110, and that's or 120, sorry. 120. And 120 is the kind of the gold standard. I mean, cities vary between 90 and 120. 120 is ideal.
We're overachievers.
Yeah, well, yeah, y'all are way overachievers when it comes to the general fund, but, well, not for, I mean, yeah. Yeah, the last time you had less than 100 days was in 2012. Well, in 2017, you got down to 81. But we've kind of reversed course since then. So I will make sure you have the Excel. You know, Excel is where all the data is on what the actual proposed costs are, and I know y'all like seeing that. So I'll make sure you have that if it wasn't in the first file that I sent you. So this is one of the last slides. This is the what is baked into the budget. There's a 3% COLA, cost of living adjustment for employees, full-time employees, and then the debt services of, it shows 748, but the total 1.1. I need to double check this number, because I think it's also showing 22 and 23. Oh, no, those are the series. But I'm almost positive that number is 1.1 million. So I'll verify that. So the airport, any question on utilities before we move to the airport?
Nope.
I have questions, but.
You have questions, but you're gonna get back to it.
Yeah. Okay. Airport, here's your, just revenues and expenditures adopted versus actual. I think we probably overestimated our fuel sales for the given year. We're not in trouble. I mean, the airport's just fine. We'll be able to pay all our bills, but we aren't going to do quite as well as we thought we were going to do. And you can see that just in the fact that their revenue's at 58%, where it should be higher than that by now. But our expenditures are also lower than, and again, that's because if you aren't selling fuel, you aren't buying fuel. And that's always kind of it's a little bit of a swag on our part every year, is how much are we gonna sell. So there's our proposed revenue, and Councilman Dyer has already kind of asked me, why is facility rentals down? I'm not sure. I honestly didn't think to ask about that before I came in, but I know that we're not going down our facility rentals, and we have the same number that we had. The only thing I think that it might be is the one, yeah, the one that crashed was in our extra space that's on the new hangar building, where David had converted what was going to be storage into a really small hangar, kind of a bonus hangar, if you want to go that way. And that's where that experimental plane was in that hangar. And so that's the only thing I can guess at, but I'll confirm that and get back to y'all as to why that's down. Brianna is out for the next week, so it'll probably be a minute before I get confirmation. Fuel sales, you'll see we did adjust those, down back to kind of the 2023 level, because again, in FY24, I think we kind of overestimated those. And then our other revenue, that 90,000 of that 91,450 is ramp grant money that we get from the state. So that's what the other revenue is. On the expenditure side, again, not a whole lot of change. We're actually down year over year by about 130,000. A big part of that is going to be fuel, because again, we're buying less, or we're estimating buying less, so it's going to cost us less. On the operating side, we're down $40,000 or so.
Where's some new manager?
Almost 53. It's built in. That we've already. I did confirm that it's built in the personnel budget. His pay is in there.
Is he full-time or part-time?
He's part-time.
Okay.
20 years. I didn't say this earlier when you were giving your report, but man, we had great candidates. First off, we had 3 really solid candidates. I'm excited about this gentleman because of his life experience. I think he brings again, I think any of them could have been great, but I'm excited to have him on board, because I think he's going to bring it'll be a different outcome because he's there.
He was a previous city council member too, so he
Oh,
knows
good.
y'all.
That ain't good.
Well,
He survived.
He's the new airport.
Lot of
Yeah,
city
he
council
looks
people
outside
are
the box, so, some things that people may see that are in the box, he may see and have a different approach.
Yeah. This is just your summary. So again, we have proposed revenues of almost 800,000 and proposed expenditures of 766. So you're going to add to the airport, or the airport's going to add to their fund balance. One thing that I think I mentioned this before, that went away is they used to have a little bit more revenue because we were paying for that lease of the land, but now we will count that as an in-kind contribution. Our in-kind contribution for maintaining the airport well is well over what we were paying in that lease. I think it's in the $26,000 to $30,000 range that we spend on personnel and equipment and other costs to maintain that well every year. We go to the well every single day.
So So even with that, that didn't affect their income.
Right, because it was $9,000, I think, is what Parks, I think that's right. The Parks would cut a check from the general fund to
Right.
the airport to lease that land. And that was the big argument was, you aren't paying us enough money. Well, now, they can make the lease $30,000 if they want. We're doing it all in kind, you know, so it doesn't matter. So there's your major changes, again, 3% cost of living adjustment, and the USDA, we've built in that payment. It's been built in since last year. And then these are the dates. Y'all just set the public hearings for tax rate. So we've got it. We made that assumption that you were going to adopt those dates. That'll be 13th to 27th. This says a city council meeting to discuss budget and work session if needed. I do intend to do a budget presentation again. I'll answer some of the questions you brought up tonight. I will send you the Excel file. It would be very, very, very helpful to me and to you, I'm sure, if you would let me know if you have specific questions after you've had a chance to review those Excel files. If you want to know why is this department recommending spending this much, like if that's of interest to you, I'm not going to get in that detail unless you tell me that you want to get in that detail. Then let me know and I'll be happy to kind of respond to those types of questions. The other thing I'll offer is if anybody wants to schedule a one-on-one meeting with me to go over any items in the budget, let me know and I'd be happy to do that as well.
Thank you.
And if anybody asks y'all, just FYI, we are only supposed to have one budget hearing, but in the past, y'all have set it up to where we have at least two so that the city and the citizens can come and ask questions. So if anybody asks that question, just say, well, we only have to have one, but we're doing it for them.
Yeah.
So it gives citizens twice the opportunity to come and us.
Well, that's true. They
Well,
might have questions.
I only see one hearing on here. Did we do?
We did two. The second one will be the night we adopted, which is
Okay,
all.
it just doesn't say that on here. So, the other thing I'll mention is we're on utility fund budget, but so don't respond to this, but other than I'll tell you, the update on general fund is last time I met, I told you I still got a $40,000 hickey on the general fund to make it balance. When I got through looking at the utility fund revenues and transfers, we're to the good on the general fund, 70,000. So our general fund is balanced at this point.
Great.
Yep.
Any other questions about utility fund or enterprise fund? All right. Next item is, what's that? No. Okay. Next item is discussion on future agenda items. Have we missed anything that has been put on there and we have not covered?
Well, if I can, there are several items that
Let's
y'all were
hear-
wanting to talk about tonight that we didn't, that we
Okay.
postponed. So that was the golf carts and the code enforcement, code compliance. So those two items I know were of interest. Those will be hopefully at the next meeting.
And the date for the joint meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, in response to everybody that has responded to me, the planning and zoning, I think I told y'all earlier, July 18th is not going to be good because we've got 3 council members out, we would not have a quorum.
So-
It's a special call, and then the chair could not make it either for the P and Z. I know Jim, he said he was good for the 29th or 30th, which the rest of the board for P and Z said anytime. I don't know that y'all have any other dates that you can't make, so either the 29th or the 30th, which I think
I'm
is a
supposed
Monday
to
or.
be out of town on the 30th.
On when?
So
On
20,
the 30th, I'm
On the
supposed to be
30th?
elsewhere. So.
Well, that,
so can everybody do the 29th then?
We're talking about July 29th?
July
Yes.
29th. That is
That's a
1,
Monday.
2, 3 Mondays from now.
or we could go into August if you prefer, but.
No, I'd rather get this before, I think this timing works really well because the other thing I wanted to discuss was the development town hall. And we've got, so right now it looks like, at least tentatively, we've got Simple City coming in the following week, 6th to 9th. I'd really like to have the P and Z, the joint meeting before that happens, just to get more input before we get into that. And I'd really like to do on the 5th, to do the development town hall, so that that would give me enough time to get the details together, to verify that with council, to make sure that we're covering everything that we need to be covering on that. And that would be a great, kind of, right after the joint P and Z meeting, the council meeting, and before the stuff with Simple City. I think it's a really good pocket right in there.
So the 5th,
The 5th, I have the airport advisory board.
Okay, can we skip that for one time?
What time would this be?
Because we'll have to have,
it's not that it's just whether or not, I mean, they may have the meeting anyway, and
You just may
she just
not
wouldn't be
be
there.
attending.
Okay.
And the town hall is at what, 6 o'clock or 10?
yeah, I think we probably do 6.
Yeah.
So
6
there's
seems
2
to be
days,
like-
I don't want to
Yeah.
confuse things, so we're talking about doing the
29th.
joint meeting on the 29th,
Yes.
which is
And
a
that's, I
Monday.
think it's at 6.
Does that work for everybody?
Yes.
I will send out an agenda.
You're in town, Herb?
meeting.
When do you get back?
31st.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so-
so he's out. So just, I want,
We have
making
to-
that clear
the rest
because
of us have to be here.
the rest of you have to be here, because the mayor doesn't count
Monday's good.
Yep.
for a quorum.
Monday's good.
Okay,
Monday's good?
is that right? I don't know.
29.
Yes.
And then,
And we said 6 o'clock, right?
Yes, if that's good for y'all, I figure it gives time for anybody that comes from San Antonio.
Someone already sent out the invite,
Yeah,
right?
it came out while I was entering it.
Oh, okay.
Scott's
Then
quick.
you run, "Wait,
Okay.
I didn't
Wasn't
finish
me.
that."
it was not me.
And invite,
When do you get back, Herb?
Pardon me?
When do you get back?
It would be 5 PM on the 31st.
Okay, perfect.
So the 5th, so the next date we're talking about is the 5th of August, which is
for a town hall.
also a Monday?
The town hall. Also
Which is
Monday.
also a Monday, so it'd be the following Monday. Your regular council meeting doesn't fall until the 13th. There will be, for your information, we won't have special, anyway. The other things that you need to know about your calendar, the 6th to the 8th, like we talked about, what Simple City will be doing is, as they did earlier, they're gonna break you up into pairs and meet with you, try to schedule meetings with you where, I don't know who the pairs are, but let's just say it's Phil and David. They'll try to meet with the two of you at some point in time over that 3-day period. But it won't be a special call meeting or anything like that you need to attend. So the 5th,
So the 5th, so Herb will be back for that. Sheena would be, okay. Is there anybody else that cannot make the 5th?
What time and where?
6 o'clock? I don't know if, I think we should probably do it maybe even at the Braden Keller Center or at American Legion Hall, just to accommodate more people than we can accommodate in here. Maybe it's American Legion Hall.
I think the Kim Bath one might be good to have it there, yeah.
Yep.
at the Legion?
That's where they had the last town hall.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
We
So,
need to see if it's available.
Yeah.
So we'll see if we can get it booked for the 5th.
okay. Right. What else do we have? Okay,
Future meetings.
yeah.
So the 6th through the 9th, what time?
I don't have a schedule yet. That's what Karen was asking about. I
They'll end
don't
up
have a schedule.
scheduling you, and I think the best
As
bet,
soon as possible, because I got the people already booked off to do stuff before they go back to school at work, so the sooner I can get it, the better.
I'll let you know. Yeah, admittedly, it's kind of my fault because Brianna's been out and they're waiting on us to respond to them. So I need to just step in.
and we need to get together with the steering committee also before they come in.
Yeah, that's one of the things that Phil is asking. And I'm pretty sure that they're planning on doing that, but I don't have a date for that.
Yeah, we haven't had a steering meeting.
Too long.
Yeah, I think we should I don't know if, I think we should at least do a virtual meeting because I think that'll be easier to schedule.
Yeah, let's do that.
Well, we need to check Central City and make sure they can come to 29.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
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 So we're pretty tentative on that. We'll get confirmation. Okay, anything else that we've missed? I think we've addressed pretty much everything that people have asked for and the things that are right up on our doorstep. Okay, with that, we are through the agenda and adjourned at 8:58.
I said 9.
Almost beat the census.
You beat 9 o'clock.
Hey, we didn't do the 1:30.
You do not want to stop this.
Next time.
No, wait your time.
Tell me.
We don't have any mail in.
Hey, Scott, have we heard any updates on the rock that was piled up about the West property?
No, I haven't asked about it since you asked me about it a while back. I need to ask Ricky. Ricky has been out a lot